And this is a woman who was vice president during an administration that actually gave Iran billions of unfrozen dollars. And Iran turned around and financed terrorism with it. Ms. Harris got some explaining to do. Back in a moment. More Americans are switching to all-family pharmacy because getting medication should not depend on your insurance company telling you no. If you already know what works for you and want real medical freedom, you have to choose the right pharmacy. All Family Pharmacy handles everything, including the doctor's prescription, ships right to your door. So please go to allfamilypharmacy.com/bill, use code BILL10, save 10% on your next order. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Gotch with your first alert forecast. We're going to continue to track scattered showers and storms today. Highs into the upper 50s, then into Wednesday. First alert weather day, seeing the potential for strong to severe storms from 11 a.m. towards 6 p.m. as we head towards the afternoon, early evening hours. Hail and stronger winds going to be the primary threats within that system. We'll see temperatures continue to rise throughout the second half of the week, eventually going to be looking to top back out towards 80 degrees into Friday, then more widespread chances of showers Saturday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
There's a lot to talk about today, St. Louis. Let's get the conversation started. This is Mike Ferguson in the morning on NewsTalkSTL.
Operation Epic Fury continues. We're now in day 4. We are going to have updates for you on that throughout the morning. And as we have been all week, starting yesterday, your ability to be a part of this conversation. What do you think as this moves on day after day after day? Of course, we start our news block right around 6 o'clock and then the news dump right after that. Plenty of updates for you. All right, good morning. Mike Ferguson here. A little bit later on today, 8:05, the race for St. Louis County Executive. Yeah, this is maybe the most closely watched local race in the area, particularly when it comes to the general election. We've had Dennis Hancock on, the Republican candidate. We've had Senator Brian Williams on, one of the Democratic candidates. His opponent is County Assessor Jake Zimmerman. He's going to be on the program here as well to give us his vision for how he would lead the county if he is elected. Once again, 8:05. All right, before we can have a really informed opinion on what's happening in the Middle East, we need to be, well, informed. And our friend Jim Talent, former U.S. Senator, was on the program with us on Monday giving, and listen, this is not one of those conservative, liberal talking point things. This is just one of the most respected perspectives and minds when it comes to geopolitics in the country, giving us a lay of the land as to why things are happening the way they're happening and what's at stake. And here's what Jim had to say.
Revolutionary Guard facilities, Iranian air defense systems. Just now was announced that we knocked out 9 ships plus their naval building.
It's known as Epic Fury. It is underway. The U.S., along with Israel, we have hit Iran again. I'm Mike Ferguson. We've got Susie Moore here, now joined by former U.S. Senator Jim Talent. And Jim, really appreciate you being on the program here. Pete Hegseth is doing an update basically as we speak right now from Washington, D.C. on Epic Fury. But first, I want to get your thoughts on the scope of this initial mission and this attack. When we talk about what was hit, like the president just referred to, what was the strategic significance of essentially this first wave, and then we can get into the why and the how and things like that. But why did we hit what we hit, and was it important to have other nations involved in this?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Mike. It goes to the heart of the purpose behind the operation. So what we hit initially was the remnants of their integrated air defense system. So the idea is to render the country completely defenseless, which I don't want to say it was completely defenseless, but their systems had already been largely knocked out. It's one of the reasons we're doing this now. And then you move in and you strike the military targets that you want to strike, which is we're taking the ballistic missile system, and the Iranians have decapitated the leaders. And the object is to knock out our prime adversary in the Middle East at a time when they were already weak and extremely vulnerable. So that's the purpose behind it. The Iranians, as one might expect in a situation like this, where the regime was already on the ropes, have made a number of mistakes, and which is simply making the situation even more perilous. So they turned around and attacked the Gulf states. As a matter of fact, as of last night, they had shot as many missiles at their Arab neighbors as they had at Israel, of course, causing them now to come in and openly join us in condemning, and probably they'll join the operations as well. So far it's going very well. This is the kind of operation we do very well. You give the American Navy, the American Air Force time to build up and engage in a extensive precision strike campaign, and you're going to be in trouble. And that's not even counting the Israelis, who have become the dominant power in the region.
Good morning, Senator. This is Susie Moore. Of course, one of the topics of conversation surrounding this is, whether we are officially at war, what that means, what the president needs to do in terms of his authority, and what he needs to clear with Congress. Could you give us some insight on that?
Yeah, and Jim, here's something that Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat, said on NBC's Meet the Press to that effect.
He is busy getting us involved in quagmires overseas that already are becoming deadly to American soldiers. This is a disaster. It is illegal. And the president is obligated under the Constitution to come to Congress and ask for an authorization of military force. He wouldn't get that authorization if he asked for it.
Jim?
Well, in terms of the legality of it, the issue is, does the president need congressional authorization for an operation like this? Nobody is quite certain, and has been for generations, exactly what the president's authority is. Senator Murphy was not complaining when Barack Obama engaged in I think it was a 7-month Libya in 2011 with no congressional authorization. So if an operation is sustained, here's what it means as a practical matter. If an operation is sustained for long enough and is expensive enough in terms of dollars, that the administration has to go to Congress for a supplemental appropriation, that's when Congress always gets to weigh in. When you need extra money, that's not going to happen here. This operation is going to last a couple of weeks maximum. A lot depends on what happens inside of Iran, because the minimum we're going to get out of this is defanging Iran's ballistic missile system and decapitating the leaders. We've already done that a lot in the last couple of days. It's quite possible, however, that there's going to be a regime, if not change, then a regime alteration. The same kind of thing we're seeking and have to a substantial extent achieved in Venezuela, where somebody takes over who's wearing a military cap rather than a turban, and who says, okay, we're going to play ball with you because the alternative is we're going to be killed, and we're going to lose everything we've looted from the Iranian people over the last 50 years. So that's the big win. But the minimum we're going to get is basically knocking Iran completely out as a threat to the United States and America's interests in the Middle East. This is what Trump tries to do. I mean, I always tell people, you want to understand what we're doing in foreign policy, read the national security strategy, which is about 25 pages long, and read The Art of the Deal. What Trump wants to do is maneuver the other party into a situation where their only options are a win for us. That's what's happened here. So I think this is not only the right thing to do, I think it's the obvious thing to do under the circumstances.
We are visiting with former U.S. Senator Jim Talent. So we go back to last June when we hit the nuclear facility in Iran. So did that not accomplish what it was designed to accomplish on a permanent basis? I mean, is this something that that should have been expected? I mean, why wasn't that enough back then?
I think it really did. I said at the time, it substantially destroyed the nuclear program. Now, since then, they've been trying to reconstitute it, which you knew they were going to do. The Chinese have been helping them because the Chinese want to destabilize the region, and they're our adversary as well. And so part of the goal here was to knock out the remnants of the program. But there are three prongs to Iranian power. One of them was their attempt to get a nuclear weapon. The second is their ballistic missile arsenal, which before Hamas made the mistake of attacking Israel was thousands of missiles. And then the third is their support of these proxies, Hezbollah, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Houthis, etc. And so Trump's demands were, you can't build nuclear weapons, you can't support the proxies, and you have to give up your ballistic missile system. So we're now knocking out the ballistic missile system, and the country Iran is in such a state that they're not going to be able to support the proxies anymore either. So again, either we defang them completely, that's the minimum result of this to our people. There is risk. We've lost 3 servicemen already as of last night when I looked, and that's 3 casualties are 3 too many. But that's going to save hundreds and probably thousands of American lives going forward. So this is the right thing to do at the right time, and I have every expectation it's going to be successful. And then we'll see what these people who are now criticizing it, what they say in a couple of weeks. I expect they'll just want the whole issue to go down the memory hole and everybody to forget what they said.
Senator, one of the things that seems to be distinguishing the military operations we're seeing under the Trump administration versus previous administrations is they appear to be moving with a clear goal. We're seeing quick strikes, end games, that sort of thing. I thought it was interesting that Senator Murphy decided to refer to what's going on in Iran for the past, 48 hours as a quagmire. I think that might be a little premature to characterize it as that. But speak to the importance of having that end game, end goal in mind when you engage in activity like this, and how that distinguishes some of our previous endeavors.
Yeah. It makes all the difference in the world. We actually have a strategy. It's a global strategy. It includes regional goals. And if you, again, page 5 of the National Security Strategy, I know what this sounds like. It's like I'm a think tank person, but I mean, it's so important that you have goals, you have a strategy, you've thought about the means by which you're going to accomplish something. And so our goals in the Middle East are to protect the United States, and that includes Americans abroad. We know what Iran has done for 50 years to Americans abroad. Anybody who wants to Google it can. You'll see a litany of attacks on the United States, both here in the homeland and also abroad. There's a reason they've been labeled the chief state sponsor of terrorism. We don't want an American adversary dominating the region. And the country that wants to do that and has tried to develop the means to do that is Iran. And we want to protect the free flow of goods in the region. We want the right of the United States to move, trade, and travel in the region on the same terms as everybody else and peacefully. And they're the major threat to that as well. And so you heard a couple days ago their proxy, the Houthis, saying we're going to seize up all shipping in the Persian Gulf. Now they can't do it. But that's what they want to do, and so this is an attempt to change the situation in the Middle East so as to protect our interests at a minimum, and of course it also creates the possibility of a new balance of power in the Middle East that is peaceful going forward. That's what Trump is really aiming for. As I said before, he usually tries to maneuver the situation so he has a big win out there that he can get. But if he doesn't get that, he certainly gets solid victories as the alternative, which is what's happening right now. I mean, as I said, Susie, I think given the history that we've had with Iran, this is not only the right thing to do, I just think it's the obvious thing to do. So obviously we don't never like to put our men and women at risk, but this is a situation that's going to save a lot of lives going forward.
Okay, got some thoughts on that? 314-912-1019. You can also send us comments on the social media feeds as well. All right, this is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
information I need on the drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning. I keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
NewsTalkSTL.
Hello, everyone. It's Fez with the Moolah Shrine Circus. I want to remind you to get your tickets now for our big circus in March. We've got new exciting acts like the Swinging Trapeze, the Daring Horseman, the Human Cannonball, and much more. And kids under 12 are free with a paid general admission ticket. So go to moolah.org and get your tickets today for the Moolah Shrine Circus, March 20th to the 22nd at the St. Charles Family Arena.
If you're considering an annuity as part of your retirement plan, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Bob Stockdale, Senior Vice President Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL 1019. Annuities can be a useful tool for some retirement investors, but not all annuities are created equal. Every week, we meet clients who own complex annuities that don't suit their needs and, in some cases, actively undermine their retirement plan. Before you purchase an annuity, get a second opinion from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. Requesting a consultation is free of charge. To request a free consultation, contact us at clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member NYSE and SIPC.
A Disney cruise is no ordinary vacation. It's an adventure, a fairy tale, a dream. Step aboard and discover where favorite Disney characters meet fun for the whole family, where total rest and relaxation meet the ultimate escape and excitement, where a dream vacation meets a magical cruise. Only on Disney Cruise Line, where magic meets the sea.
Magic Expeditions will make planning your Disney cruise easy. Reach out at magicexpeditions.com.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go. And pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
What if the music stopped? If the familiar voices were silenced? If there were no breaking news updates? What if your companion and connection to your community came with a monthly fee? Don't worry, we're free local radio with you wherever you go, celebrating 100 years and looking forward to the next 100. We are broadcasters. Text radio to 52886 and let Congress know you depend on your local TV and radio stations. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Okay, what's next? What's next at Iran?
Oh,
yeah.
Where do you want to start?
Right.
I mean,
Now, here's the thing. You could almost say the answer to that question depends on the answer to this question, which would be, what's next in Washington, D.C.?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Epic Fury, now we're in what, day 4, I guess, of Epic Fury. Ayatollah Khamenei dead. President Trump on Sunday saying, the deal wasn't made. Iran wouldn't capitulate to ending their nuclear threat. And that is the entire premise of Operation Epic Fury. Iran was developing nuclear weapons. And I don't even know if there's a lot of, even Iran's allies, I don't think are questioning that really was the case. Now, one of the questions is, were they an imminent threat? There's questions about that. So Steve Witkoff, special envoy to the Middle East, was on Hannity last night on Fox. He says that Iranian officials in their discussions were very forthright and upfront about the fact that they had nuclear material.
Both the Iranian negotiators said to us directly,
with, no shame, that they controlled 460 kilograms of 60%, and they're aware that that could make 11 nuclear bombs.
Okay, so in politics and everything, you always what's the old phrase? Trust but verify, I guess. So there were some reports. I think you may have mentioned it. I don't remember if it was on the air or not yesterday, Jerome. That even U.S. intelligence said, well, they weren't about to launch. They were not an imminent threat.
So Ted Cruz also said this as well, is that they were not anywhere close to even being within a year of being able to develop a single nuclear weapon, let alone 11. And yes, our intelligence reporting was saying that they were not determined to attack us first, so to speak.
Right. So but then a very strong argument on the other side of that, because I'm trying to, I'm trying to make sure that I make an informed opinion on it. Is that, do you wait until they have it before you take action? Or if you know what the intent is and you know what they're doing, do you stop it earlier on in the process? Well, there's a very clear logic to that. That makes a lot of sense as far as, especially when you consider, would they launch ballistic missiles into the U.S.? No, they couldn't reach them if they wanted to, but could they hit Europe? Yeah. Would they hit Israel? They 100% would do that. Would they hit even the other Islamic nations if they're allying with the? Yeah. So we know what the intent was, and we know that eventually it was going to happen. So should we consider that when we will look at, okay, well, did we jump the gun? Well, if you can stop it now, as opposed to waiting until hitting something causes a nuclear explosion, well, there's a logic to that. There's a defensible position there.
Well, and this is where I'm kind of torn, because I'm reading through more of what is being said by the administration. But if they were that much of a potential threat to Europe and the Saudi nations before us, why was it just us and Israel conducting this? Why were not more forces involved in trying to absolutely cripple their entire military capabilities? That's what I would like to know.
Because they're like, well, let the big dogs pay for it. It's going to happen anyway. Let them take care of it. Yeah, and so basically they're like, well, you can launch your planes from here. Look, we participated. It's like Canada saying, we're going to support the effort. You can have our mounted horses. We're helping.
Oh, man.
Hey, it's Susie Moore. If new flooring makes you think hassle, think again, because Michael's Flooring is changing the game. For over 30 years, Michael's has been locally owned and trusted for quality, variety, and amazing service. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, laminate, luxury vinyl, or ceramic tile, their expert team makes installing new floors exciting, not stressful. That's why customers keep coming back. Visit Michael's Flooring at St. Peter's, Starting Prairie, Creve Coeur, or online at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. Unfortunately, St. Louis City streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline.
Hello, Kirk Ilsinger, chairman of the Republican Party for the city of St. Louis, and we believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. I invite you to our meetings the first Thursday of every month. Learn more at stl-gop.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican PAC. Curtis Farber, Treasurer.
People ask all the time, who the heck is Low Cost Airlines? Well, we're not just one airline. When you're talking to us, you're talking to everyone. We are the discount supermarket for all airline tickets. Plus, we have all the airlines and always have the best prices. American, Delta, United, plus all the specialized international airlines and a lot more. And we make it easy. We guarantee you'll talk to a live human in 60 seconds. You can have the rates you need and have your trip booked in 5 minutes. Now, how cool is that? And remember, when you're talking to us, it's like talking to every single airline available with one fast phone call. All you need to do is call and find the best prices to fly wherever it is you want to go. So are you ready? Call Low Cost Airlines right now. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. 800-515-2397. That's 800-515-2397.
What's the best way to get rid of a timeshare that you don't want? Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline. We're a group of attorneys that help customers legally exit their timeshares. It's an easy process. We guarantee results or you pay nothing. Exit your timeshare today. Call now.
800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. By wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers right away. If you're testing your blood sugar 4 or more times per day, injecting insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call the Diabetic Health Hotline today.
800-515-2380. That's 800-515-2380. Paid for by U.S. Med.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Lashing out at other countries, including their archenemy Israel, by firing what missiles and drones they have left in their arsenal. And the American embassy in Saudi Arabia has been targeted by the Iranians.
Iran struck the U.S. Saudi embassy early Tuesday as it keeps on hitting targets around the region, while the U.S. and Israel pounded Iran with airstrikes in what President Donald Trump suggests is just the start of a relentless campaign. The attack from 2 drones on the Riyadh complex caused a limited fire and minor damage, according to the kingdom's defense ministry. The embassy is urging Americans to avoid the compound. It follows an attack on the U.S. embassy in Kuwait, which announced Tuesday it was now closed until further notice.
Correspondent Charles Deladesma says no one was in the embassy building at the time of the attack. 6 U.S. service members have been killed in the war. Deaths in Iran approach 800, and that includes the country's supreme leader. Several states kicking off the 2026 election cycle with primaries today.
Texas, Arkansas, and North Carolina are holding primary elections for party nominations ahead of the November midterms. Among those 3, Texas is generating the most interest with heated Senate races. Incumbent Republican John Cornyn is facing off against Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and U.S. Congressman Wesley Hunt. In the Democratic contest, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is facing State Representative James Tallarico. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Oil prices are surging, and that's driving a sharp rise in prices at the gas pump. Barring a turnaround, Wall Street will open sharply lower this morning. Stock futures deep in the red. Right now, the Dow futures are down just over 800 points. NASDAQ futures off 532. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Hey there, it's Chris, and as you know, Israel is a hot discussion point right now. I just talked about it on a panel at the National Religious Broadcasters Convention. There's so many opinions and emotions surrounding the subject, and the Bible tells us, of course, I will bless those who bless you. That's not just a comforting promise, it's a clear calling from God, and today, with anti-Semitism rising around the world, the calling is more urgent than ever. At a time when Jewish communities are experiencing more hostility, more threats, more violence than ever, Christians have a real opportunity, a powerful opportunity, to respond with God's love, to say, you're not alone. When Christians choose to bless Israel, you're not entering into a political issue. You're honoring the roots of our faith and standing against hatred. Supporting Israel is more than just a belief. It's a biblical mandate. Partnering with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, you can push back against darkness and be a light to God's people. Go to ifcj.org to learn more. That's ifcj.org. Live the word, answer the call.
Rwanda's army is a target of U.S. economic sanctions, punishment for the army's involvement in fighting in a neighboring country.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Gotch with your first alert forecast. We're going to continue to track scattered showers and storms today. Highs into the upper 50s, then into Wednesday. First alert weather day, seeing the potential for strong to severe storms from 11 a.m. towards 6 p.m. As we head towards the afternoon, early evening hours. Hail and stronger winds going to be the primary threats within that system. We'll see temperatures continue to rise throughout the second half of the week, eventually going to be looking to top back out towards 80 degrees into Friday, then more widespread chances of showers Saturday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Never paint again. This is Darren, owner of Rhino Shield. Want to eliminate painting your home, business, or church? Call the experts at Rhino Shield. Rhino Shield is a revolutionary ceramic wall coating to regular paint and vinyl. Perfect for aluminum, steel, unpainted brick, block, stucco, EIFS, drive-it, cement board, and wood sidings. Rhino Shield eliminates wasting time and money painting year after year. Our ceramic coating deflects 90% of the sun's UV rays and 100% of the moisture. Our clients want affordable protection with the elimination of maintenance. Rhino Shield protects your biggest investment while maintaining your architectural features and gives you the curb appeal you deserve. Make your home great again by working with the Rhino Shield experts. A+ rated with the BBB. Call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Just a convenience on the phone.
Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime.
Everywhere.
Anywhere. Mike Ferguson.
Shut this sucker down.
Susie Moore.
I disagree on his assessment of the situation.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm? Get up, St. Louis.
You're not supposed to lie, but you're definitely not supposed to lie when you're under oath.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, we're there. So for how long and at what cost? Even if the cost is considered to be worth it, at how long and at what cost? In Iran.
Okay.
Yep.
I was just making sure what we were talking about.
Yep, that's what we're talking about. Also, parents get a rare win in California.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the Billikens, and this surprises me, hold on to a spot in the national rankings.
Wow.
I am very surprised at this. 6:06 right now. Let's go and get started with the news dump.
Successful dump.
Wake up, America.
It all worked out.
They got all the news.
The morning news dump.
Okay, the Trump administration is insisting the war with Iran will not be endless. Will not be another, I should say, endless Middle East conflict.
Addressing concerns that combat operations could spiral into a long-running regional conflict, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said this military mission has a defined objective.
This is not Iraq. This is not endless.
He said the mission is to destroy the missile threat from Iran, destroy its navy, and prevent it from developing nuclear weapons.
We fight to win, and we don't waste time or lives.
Hegseth wouldn't rule out putting U.S. troops on the ground, saying the Pentagon will not forecast what it will or will not do. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Okay, and of course we've got the partisan sort of tribal reaction for the most part. There's a few people on either side, Republican, Democrat, as far as support. But Senator John Fetterman was on Hannity last night on Fox, kind of calling out his party over this.
If you really believe that they should never acquire these kinds of nuclear weapons or these kinds of longer range kinds of missiles, and if somebody decides to do that and make sure that that's not going to happen, why can't we all just acknowledge that that's a good thing?
Yeah, and President Trump said if anybody else launched this, Democrats would support it. He goes, if anybody other than me launched it, I would probably argue that if any Republican launched it, the Democrats would,
Yeah, if this was George W. Bush launching this, I don't know that they would,
they'd react the same way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's elevated or because of him. It's
Yes,
amplified
yeah.
because of him.
Or it's more intense. Maybe
Yes,
that's a way. Maybe that's a way to put it. Yeah. Okay. So Speaker Mike Johnson, speaking with reporters, asked about the question of whether or not the president had to notify Congress or whether he needed to get their authorization. He says President Trump acted within his authority to activate those strikes and to stop the ballistic missiles and take down Iran's naval capabilities.
It's not a declaration of war. It's not something that the president was required, because it's defensive in nature and in design and in necessity, to come to Congress and get a vote first. And if they had briefed a larger group than the Gang of Eight, there's a real threat that very sensitive intelligence that we had, might have been leaked.
Okay, now I know this is going to surprise you, but turns out Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer disagrees.
Get out.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just reporting the news. I'm just saying that And so it still looks like we could be a couple days away from some sort of resolution on this being voted in Congress. We'll see whether that actually happens, but that's still the idea. That's still the plan.
Sure.
Yep. Okay. Let's see here. Let's go an update in Texas here with the shooting and the possibly, I'm not going to say possibly just because authorities are saying it could be connected with terrorism. The shooting in Austin, authorities investigating that shooting that happened on Sunday just outside of an Austin, Texas bar. 3 people dead, including the gunman, 14 others wounded. Austin Police Chief Lisa Davis says an officer fatally shot the suspect at the scene while all of this was going on, and we are going to get more information soon.
We will be releasing info as quickly as possible. Later this week, potentially Thursday, we'll be releasing body-worn camera of this event, as well as information on the suspect, including criminal history.
That suspect has been identified by DHS as 53-year-old Ndiaga Diagni, and he was born in Senegal but became a naturalized U.S. citizen in 2013. Authorities say the shooter may have had ties to terrorism. They are not saying that, but they are saying that is part of that is basically a target of their investigation at this point.
Well, and rightly so.
Yeah.
I think that some of the signs indicate that there was some connection and some messaging intended there, perhaps. So, yeah, I'm glad they're at least taking that aspect of it seriously and not just saying, oh, no, we don't think it's terrorism.
Right, exactly. Because that's what would have happened under the previous administration is they would have run interference to find any way to not blame Islamic terrorism. Yeah. So now, if it's connected, then find out who he's connected to. If it turns out it's just a lone nutcase, okay, then find that out and tell us.
Follow the
but
facts.
We just
it's a lone nutcase with an Iranian flag where underneath his
exactly under his property of Allah
sweatshirt.
Right.
So there's some clues.
Yes,
they're not definitive proof, but there's some clues.
Should be looking at it. I just want the truth on it.
Yeah,
with everything
absolutely.
Else. Yep. Okay, I want to talk about this in more depth here in just a little bit. Supreme Court hands parents a victory in California, of all places, at least for now, by a 6-3 ruling, and you can guess which 6 and which 3.
Yes.
The court reinstated a lower court's decision, and that decision blocked a California state law banning public schools from informing parents if their child showed signs of gender dysphoria or other gender or sexuality-related struggles. This is not the final say, and this is what we'll get into in more depth here in just a little bit. It's not the final say, as the case can still be appealed eventually to the Supreme Court for a final decision. But this was that law, and we talked about this when it was passed. This is the one where the state of California argued that, well, these kids need to be protected from their parents if their parents might not affirm their sexual delusions.
Right, so you're not allowed to tell the parents.
Right, you're not allowed to tell.
You're prohibited, not just that,
You actively hide this from the parents. Just this. They shown signs of any other struggles, well, that you got to tell the parents. You bring them in. But on this, which tells you that, at least in California, and I would argue probably most public schools, that the mindset of the establishment, of the institution itself, is take control of the kids, groom them, affirm them, promote it, market it, and basically take over the state rearing the children and forming the children.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So more detail. Let's go into that because there's a lot to dig in.
There is.
On this. And you guys at Red State are obviously all over this as well. All right. A Christian legal group has a request for the Trump administration, and what they're trying to do is both save lives and protect taxpayers.
Alliance Defending Freedom has sent a letter to the Department of Health and Human Services pointing out that federal dollars are going to about 50 medical training programs that may force students to participate in abortions. ADF says, quote, no family medicine residency can tell applicants or employees that any aspect of abortion is a necessary part of the program. President Trump has vowed to end taxpayer funding of abortion across the board. Michael Harrington reporting.
Okay, so things that go under the radar but still need to be watched.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's so easy for that to happen these days just because, there's so much going on. It's hard to keep track of it all.
Yeah, what's the cliche, the drinking from the fire hose?
Can I tell you how many times that was actually said between my coworkers and me yesterday? I was like, could we just fill it with wine?
Right,
just
something.
Help a girl out.
All right. By the way, I meant to mention this a few minutes ago. C-SPAN now is they're showing that you can access the Clinton depositions.
Yes.
The video on there. I watched some of it. It's mind-numbingly useless. in my opinion. I mean, it's just, everybody talking over each other. I honestly, there were very few clips I could even put on the radio because it's just their lawyers running interference and Hillary Clinton arguing with people. And, if you could see their demeanors, Hillary Clinton, is so beyond arrogant. But I would also argue that she probably knew she was 2 or 3 steps ahead of everybody else in the room on this. So Bill Clinton, just looked like a dirty old man in the nursing home.
Right, he looked like he was enjoying looking at those photos.
That's what you said earlier,
The contrast between Hillary Clinton being very worked up and very frustrated by being questioned, and Bill quite literally having a sense of nostalgia, like smiling with joy and asking, I remember this. This was a good time. It was absolutely bewildering.
Yeah. It's kind of bewildering when you think about the fact they've been together all these years. I have to say one other thing about Hillary real quick. She looks good.
For her age,
she's never going to be a beauty queen, but for her age, she looks like she looks well rested.
Yes.
You can call her, unconscionable, but you cannot call her dumb, and you can't call her bad looking. I mean, that's just
there have been times when you could call her bad looking. She's kind of got a weird look. Like she's not necessarily a traditionally attractive woman.
Yeah, I'm kind of like if you thought Cruella de Vil was attractive, in a certain weird way.
I mean, I'm trying to say this objectively. It's not just about being catty, but there have been times when you've looked at her and been like, that's not a great look. She looked good. Like her skin looked healthy. She looked actually well rested and
because
relaxed.
she had some struggles during the campaign
She
physically.
did.
Had to be caught, stumbling, but you could see like at one point you could see the wheels turning, and she wasn't even hiding when she got that kind of Cruella de Vil grin on her face.
No,
to go, oh, I'm about to eat you people alive,
right?
Because the Republicans were there like, we're going to do the gotcha. They were playing more to the camera, and Bill Clinton needed his lawyers to jump in constantly to protect him, and Hillary Clinton was like, I've got this. And so I think they rendered the whole circus useless. The Clintons will never be held accountable for anything.
No, she seems like 10 years younger than him.
Yeah, I think
easily.
You're right. Yeah. I mean, Bill Clinton, he literally looked like
he looks like a doddering old man.
He looks
dirty
like
old man.
Doddering old man. He looks like the dirty old man in the nursing home that the nurses are like, you know what? He's going to slap your butt. He's about to die. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
That's how he looked. Kind of a puddle of old manness.
I still can't believe that the lawyer had to rip one of the pages out of his hand because he was just absolutely.
It was weird. That whole, and I didn't have the sound on, but just the look was weird.
Vintage Bill.
Yeah, it was a creepier Bill.
Yeah. Oh yeah, without a doubt. All right, Billikens managed to hold on and stay in the national rankings. This actually surprises me. It really does. The new AP poll has SLU at number 25. Coaches poll ranks them at 24. Billikens host Loyola Chicago tomorrow at Chaffetz Arena. Illinois is at 11 in both of the polls this week. They are at home against Oregon tonight.
Okay.
Had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your indifference. Stop it right now before you blow us all away. You wanna do that? Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your curse.
All right, a lot of times people think about springtime as kind of a renewal or a spring cleaning sort of thing, but think about the investment in your home, and that's not just inside your home, that's outside your home. Mike Ferguson here from my friends at STL Fence Works. You have got to contact them. Matter of fact, go to their website right now, stlfenceworks.com, and you can actually do a simulator and tell them what you want online and get a quote before you even talk to somebody from their fantastic team as well. They've been around over 50 years, serving the St. Louis metro area. They've been around since 1971, just like I have. This is a family-owned business, and they have an A-plus BBB rating here. Now, keep in mind, they've got American-made materials as well, so that the pricing is more stable, and they are incredibly competitive because, listen, your satisfaction is their passion. This is not just talk, my friends here. Listen, I love my friends at STL Fence Works. I mean, they are passionate about what they do because of the way they leave your home and your property after they're done improving it. And this is something really cool. So get that online fence estimator tool. Go to stlfenceworks.com/estimate. Just a couple quick questions about what you want to do, and then you will get a ballpark estimate immediately right there online. This is for your fencing project here. They can still do your deck. They can do other projects, and, get in touch with them for that, stlfenceworks.com. But this makes it easy to plan and budget on your timeline without worrying about, some team member hounding you, which they wouldn't do anyway. They just don't operate on that. But you can do it all right there at your desk, right there on your laptop, right there on your iPad, or whatever the case is. We're talking custom fences, vinyl, ornamental, privacy fences, whatever you need, that's what they've got. And, of course, they can do those custom decks as well. So when you talk about spring cleaning and renewing your home, we're not just talking about, putting in some new shiplap or something like that. We're talking about something your family can enjoy for generations with guaranteed workmanship. STLFenceworks.com. Tell them Mike was bragging about them on the radio, and go get that estimate. You can do that right now for free. Easy to do.
Tim Jones here from my great friends at Comprehensive Chiropractic, the premier chiropractic and sports performance facility in the region. How do I know? Simply put, they've helped me on many occasions. Here's another solution to your everyday aches and pains. The Studio Health and Wellness Center. Services include Pilates and yoga, both with certified instructors. I can also highly recommend the massage therapy, which is not an indulgence. It's a proven method of healing and restoration. Trust my friends at Comprehensive Chiropractic in Eureka. cchiropractic.com. That's cchiropractic.com.
Columbo here from my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at BluffCityOutdoors.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at Stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Let's get back to all this madcap mayhem with Mike Ferguson in the morning. But don't forget, stick around for Jones and Arps every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m.
All right, imagine this. Parents have a right to know if their children are showing signs of mental illness.
Huh.
Imagine that.
Seems logical.
Well, except in California. And here's the amazing thing is we've talked about just the law after law after law that's passed with Gavin Newsom's, blessing, and back when she was Attorney General, Kamala Harris's, blessing, and you look at the cast of characters who keep getting elected there, and I don't know how I don't understand how there aren't more people on the left pointing out, saying this is evil, guys. California passed a law that says if your gender confused child, if somebody can get them across state lines and they can say, my parents won't affirm me, that the state will take custody and then pay for the chemical and possibly even surgical, quote unquote, transitions. That's not hyperbole.
No, that was the law.
So basically they passed a law and said, hey, groomers and traffickers, if you can sneak those kids out of the house, get them to California and we're the safe haven. And in this case right here, with the support of the public school establishment in California, they passed a law that says if a boy says, I think I'm a girl, start using she, her, or they, them, or zir, zer, or rainbow farts, or whatever pronouns they want to use. And I'm going to come to school in my jeans and my T-shirt, but I'm going to change into a mini skirt and heels. Don't tell my parents. The law says you must get in between the child and the parents and then do everything you can to groom and affirm that child's delusion. That's what the law says to do.
Maybe not in those exact words.
Not those
but
exact
that's the
words, but
practical
that's,
effect of it.
I just get real here.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. So the Supreme Court issued a ruling yesterday that's probably got the gender cult really, really on their heels right now. They're stiletto high heels for the dudes, at least. Here's how Sacramento, California television station KCRA reported the news.
Other breaking news, the Supreme Court has handed down a ruling temporarily blocking a California law preventing teachers from informing parents about their students' gender expression.
Now, the state policy was intended to protect trans minors from abuse at home or rejection, but it raised questions about if parents had a right to know if their child is going through gender transition at school. California argued that students have the right to privacy about their gender expression. In an unsigned order, the court found, quote, "We conclude that the parents who seek religious exemptions are likely to succeed on the merits of their free exercise clause claim." The California order comes months after the court upheld state bans on gender identity-related health care for minors.
Okay, so now you saw how far they were trying to stretch the leftist perspective on this, but the case in point at hand is the ruling wasn't so-called trans good bad. The religious freedom argument is what I think a lot of people are missing in the story.
Well, and you have to remember, the Supreme Court did issue that formal opinion last year, Mahmoud, out of Maryland, which basically had to do with schools notifying parents and giving them the option to opt out when they were talking about, curriculum that included this type of information. But it all ties into the religious freedom argument. And you noted this. This is not a final decision on the merits. In fact, I had trouble finding the decision last night because it kind of came out in a weird way. This wasn't one of the formal hand down days because this wasn't argued before them like the cases we've been talking about. This is basically one of those procedural rulings that says trial court put a stay or a pause on the law that bans schools from telling parents. Appellate court put a stay on that. We're vacating that appellate court stay, so the trial court's decision for now stands in place, and that means the law is on pause while it's all worked through the courts on the merits.
Okay, so given that, then for the school system, for the school districts there, for the superintendents, for the guidance counselors, for the teachers, whatever, in theory, their child comes in showing signs of some sort of gender dysphoria or sexual dysfunction or something like that. Are they supposed to then notify the parents at this point?
Now, I don't know if there's an affirmative duty
Okay.
to, but they're not prohibited from doing so currently because the law would prohibit them from doing that. So in California, my guess would be there isn't something necessarily requiring them to notify.
Unless there's a wide-ranging, if there's any mental things, then you should,
That could be.
So unless there's something that maybe doesn't address this specifically, just overall.
But setting aside all of that, if you are the parent of school-age children in California and you are not seriously evaluating your educational choices, you should be.
I'll go even. Let me add one more option to that right there because they definitely should be doing that. I'm really honest. Every parent everywhere should be looking hard at the public school system right now and what they're doing to your children. But how about this? Do parents have a responsibility to get out of an environment where you've got to go to war with the state over basic morality and protecting your children? Because we're not talking about they're wrong morally or ethically. They are. But we're also talking about phenomenal danger to the health and welfare of children in the name of this ideology.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair question. You got to remember there's a huge swath of California geographically that is red.
Yeah.
I mean, there are plenty of the non-coastal areas, the central California, there's a lot of California that is conservative. So if you're a parent who is in one of the red parts of California and just you like the school system that your children are in and you trust the people there because you have, you're involved, are you obligated to move?
If you can hold the school accountable, I mean, I
realize the state itself is an issue, but there's a lot of that state that isn't part of that issue, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense, yeah. I mean, I just think that even in turning brighter red Missouri, the holdouts are the public schools.
Yes.
And I don't think there's a single public school district that is not trying to hold out.
Right.
Which you look at, for instance, Fort Zumwalt, there's a chance to actually flip that board back to a conservative majority, and that is so rare.
Right. So you move your kids from California to Missouri, and they run into the same problem.
That's
they
true.
just don't.
That's
The
true.
state laws aren't as conducive to it. But the bottom line is, you got to be involved as a parent. You got to be looking really closely at the schools.
Yeah, I mean, the state laws are at least on the parent's side in Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm fundamentally against the idea of flighting, though, because at some point, I mean, I understand doing what's best for your children and trying to make sure that they're in the right environment, but as we've seen since my entire lifetime, is that the people that have any sort of common sense are going to the places that also have common sense. The places without common sense keep getting worse. Then they are indoctrinating people, or they're encouraging the sort of thing that people are fleeing from. Then those people also end up going somewhere else, and then making the common sense place less common sense.
Now,
So
my
at some point, you gotta stand your ground.
my kids are both adults now, so it doesn't affect me. But I wouldn't, if my kids were little, I wouldn't sacrifice my kids just for the fight. I'd fight a different way, through policy, through elections, that sort of thing. But I wouldn't sacrifice my kids to the public schools just to stand my ground and fight, knowing that it's probably a losing fight when it comes to that part of the establishment.
I wouldn't willingly, but I also recognize, as someone who, was a single mom for most of my daughter's life.
Single dad here. Yeah, totally.
But what I'm saying is there were limitations as to what I could and couldn't do as far as where I could live, and what I could afford to do, and what my career. I mean, there are outside influences that can play a role in that, so that even a parent that is concerned about the environment may feel like they don't have a lot of options.
Right. Which is another reason school choice matters so much.
Yes, it does.
Because that is so empowering. The more school choice we can put in there, the more empowering it is. And that could be enough to hold, well, not enough, but that could be something that could hold the school districts somewhat accountable, because their funding would be threatened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as we're seeing now, state lawmakers are trying to clean up the mess caused by years of the defund the police in the city, which is also a terrible idea. And that's got the mayor in a tough spot. So at 6:35, how about we tell you all about her latest pushback against state control of police in her city.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Our country was founded by geniuses, but it's being run by idiots.
On NewsTalkSTL.
Everybody wants to have global peace.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
According to a new study, Metrolink's new security gates are working. We'll talk to David Stokes of Show Me about that at 4:20.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on NewsTalkSTL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Gotch with your first alert forecast. We're going to continue to track scattered showers and storms today. Highs into the upper 50s, then into Wednesday. First alert weather day, seeing the potential for strong to severe storms from 11 a.m. towards 6 p.m. as we head towards the afternoon, early evening hours. Hail and stronger winds going to be the primary threats within that system. We'll see temperatures continue to rise throughout the second half of the week, eventually going to be looking to top back out towards 80 degrees into Friday, then more widespread chances of showers Saturday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli here with our great friend Chris Cooper from Serenity Wealth Management. Hi, Chris.
How are you, Vic?
I don't want to put anybody else down, but that when you go up and visit you at Serenity Wealth, your place looks like home.
So a lot of financial advisory offices, they have, the big mahogany desk or the big marble entryways and things like that, the stock market channel on the TV when you walk in the door, right? That doesn't really drive a good conversation. Good financial guidance and advice starts with a good conversation. People are nervous. People are afraid to talk about finances, right? And so you can see a little standoffish. Well, my objective is to try to have a good, casual conversation. By having those conversations about life, goals, objectives, it's what makes me understand what our financials are supposed to fund.
So if somebody does want to have a good conversation, how do they do that? How do they find you?
Our website is the best way to do that, because you can get all the information you need, understand where we are, get a little bit more information, all that. SerenityWealthNow.com.
Reach out to Chris and Stacy today at SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros and Exteriors, your all-in-one service team that brings years of experience and quality that's affordable right to your doorstep. Christine and I discovered Gutter Pros and Exteriors when we bought our home and inherited a gutter problem. And they've also repaired siding damage on our home, because along with gutter repair, gutter installation, and leaf protection, the Gutter Pros team are also the best for repairing other exterior damage, including fascia, soffit, and all siding repair and installation. Learn about all the ways Gutter Pros and Exteriors can help your home or business right now at gutterpros.com.
This is what's happening.
The president has no plan for any kind of large-scale ground force inside of Iran.
This war is not about the Iranian people. It's about this poisonous regime.
101.9 and 94.1.
Number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, the city doesn't get to run the police department anymore.
Right.
Okay, and we all watched the long history of why that's the case, but should the city still remain liable when the police get sued and things like that? So that's part of the debates and discussion. There's a couple aspects of this. One of them I'm kind of sympathizing with the mayor, and the other I'm like, no, I think that's just cost of the city, even though it's not Kara Spencer. She's really in a bad spot. Boy, did she inherit a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
When she got elected on this, and she has to deal with it. You know, she
Mhm.
has to deal with it. So we'll tell you about her trip up to the state capitol yesterday. But you know what? While the world is watching what happens in Iran, plenty of news that affects us happening around the country. So, Susie, what is being covered today at redstate.com?
This is the Red State Rundown.
Front and center right now, we have from Rusty Weiss. Trump fires back at Megyn Kelly after she claims U.S. troops died for Iran or Israel. I mean, I think we're just seeing that fissure kind of widen between what some refer to as the woke right and, Trump and the MAGA movement. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, there's Megyn Kelly's a sad fall of somebody who. Anyway, yeah, I think I'm with you. I think that's all. That's all I'm going to say. Very,
I'll just say my affection for Megyn Kelly has left me.
Dump it in with Tucker Carlson.
Yeah. This one's a great VIP article from Terry Christoph, How to Get Away with Murder in Virginia. It's kind of a deep dive about, well, there's this Soros-backed prosecutor. He's the one who let the guy out multiple times, the one who stabbed and killed the lady last week in Virginia. It's just a horrific story, but it's emblematic of the issues that they have there with this soft on crime mentality. And Terry does a great deep dive into that. So check that one out. And then we've got from Ben Smith. This was kind of interesting. The Iranian women's soccer team chose silence as Tehran demands unity. So they're playing in a tournament, and the Iranian national anthem is played, and instead of singing along, as they would normally do, they stood silently.
Interesting.
And there were people in the fans in the stand that had like the old school Iranian flag that they were holding, and then there's a clip of the coach of the team with a grin ear to ear on her face. Now, should I read too much into that? I don't know, but it does seem as though they're making a statement with their silence.
Yeah, and it just feels like the region and the people there, they know change is right around the corner, 2 steps away.
Yeah, they're counting on it.
Yeah.
They need for that to happen.
Because typically in a complete dictatorship regime, not only you look like, for instance, North Korea. It's not, you can't even get away with just not participating. You must actively affirm. And so any act of something like that, they're clearly not sensing as much danger as they would have, say, 2 weeks ago.
No. And I just have to say, it's been very interesting watching the left's reaction to Iranian women who are, celebrating their freedom or hoping for their freedom and, being very effusive about that. And they're being critical of that. It's like, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah. Or I mean, would you have, how much of the leftist media compares what Afghanistan used to be before the Taliban was handed control of it? And look at what happened with women and education and everything. You can easily see the difference. So,
right,
yeah.
You're all about the Handmaid's Tale here, but when women are actually gaining their freedom and being, basically freed to throw off those garments, you're criticizing because Orange Man bad.
Right, that's exactly it. All right, Ms. Spencer Goes to Jefferson City. I don't think it's going to be a movie.
Maybe not. Maybe. Could be a documentary.
It could be a documentary. So here, and again, Kara and I obviously see the world differently. I've interviewed her a handful of times. I like Kara Spencer. Disagree with her, but she goes to Jeff City because there is a legislative proposal, and she was the only one who testified against it. So I think she sees the writing on the wall here. So there's basically two issues. Because the state has taken over or is in the process of taking over the St. Louis City Police Department, Senate Bill, and if you want to look it all up and do the wonky thing, Senate Bill 1657, Okay. The city of St. Louis would have the financial liability for police-related lawsuits, police-related settlements, judgments against the police, legal fees, even after the state completes the oversight board takeover of managing the department.
Okay.
So the state appoints the board, the governor reports to the board, the mayor's obviously on it. So the state has the oversight of the police department, but if and when there's a lawsuit or a judgment or a settlement, the city is the one who has to deal with that financially. And so she's obviously arguing that if the state runs the police department, then the state should be liable if there's a lawsuit or settlement.
I kind of see the logic of that argument.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be interested in hearing what the counter argument is.
Right. Yeah. So she's up there basically fighting a losing battle, and I think she knows it. And then the other aspect of this is that whether it's that laws or a different one. By the way, the St. Louis Police Officers Association is all in favor of the bill, saying that basically it returns things to how it used to be before the experiment of cities control the police department. But here's the other aspect of it is, for instance, the board of police commissioners is also about to assume the ability, assuming everything goes through, which I think it will, of being able to move money from one budget to another to manage the police department without going through the city or without giving the city a say on this.
Mhm.
Now, in my opinion, I think that makes perfect sense to me. And I completely understand why the city officials would be really angry about that. But here's the thing. If it's all within the police department and the state is doing the oversight, it makes sense that they manage all the money, especially in a city that's got a history of defunding law enforcement.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I both arguments make sense to me. I mean, I see that, and I certainly understand where the mayor is coming from.
Definitely.
I really would be interested in knowing what the argument is that if you're overseeing, you're taking the ultimate responsibility for the finances and for the overall oversight, but you're not taking the responsibility for missteps and liabilities.
Right.
I mean, that sounds like a sweet deal, but I don't know if I understand the justification for that.
Well, and also, of course, she's pushing back against the state saying you've got to spend 23% of your general revenue on law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that isn't just police and patrol cars. That's also dispatch. That's also equipment. That's also training. That's also all of those things. And saying, but this is going to cost layoffs. We just can't afford this. Well, guess what? That's how the city chose to budget and spend money on many frivolous things. At one point, the city created a $1 million fund for women who live there if they wanted to go out of state to get an abortion to help them pay for it.
That's true. Priorities.
So, right.
Mm-hmm.
So, $1 million isn't going to cover anywhere near this, but I'm saying that's the priorities that the Megan Green Board of Alder critters and, Mayor Tashara Jones and all of those others, they dug this hole, and now Kara Spencer is charged with getting them out of it, and she doesn't have the authority now to do it with the police department. But here's the thing is that change had to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think Kara Spencer would have. I think she would have. I don't know that she would want law enforcement to look the way that we think it should look.
Yeah.
But her history tells us she definitely doesn't want it to look the way that it did, with her predecessors. I think she's much better than they are on this.
Yeah. I mean, I think her best bet, not that she's asking for my advice, but is to do what she can to work with the state and just, extract whatever advantages she can for the city while, promoting her view. But at the same time, and she's going to have to work with the state. She's not going to be able to do it alone.
Choice, yeah.
Right. So you might as well make the best of it, and get what advantage you can.
Yeah, and being in the Capitol, showing her face there, getting to know the lawmakers, very, very smart move. Because when Tashara Jones, the rare times that she would go there, it was basically antagonistic. It was her in a very condescending way, whereas Kara Spencer goes to the lawmakers saying, you're killing me here.
Right.
But the lawmakers are saying, no, your people are killing each other, and we're trying to put a stop to it.
Yeah.
And again, Kara Spencer inherited this mess,
She did.
but at the same time, the action had to be taken. I mean, I am fully supportive of the state resuming oversight of the police board. I mean, I understand that Kara Spencer's in a tough spot because voters are like, why are you letting this happen? And there's only so long you can point at the previous administration and go, but them.
Right.
I mean, it's like
the
conservatives.
time for that is running out.
Yeah, it's like conservatives who still want to constantly, be obsessed with, Joe Biden. Joe Biden's irrelevant now,
Well, no, but I mean, we are still feeling second and third order effects from
Right.
what his administration did and didn't do.
Well, yeah, we
I
could
mean,
go back to
right.
Obama and
So,
George W.
I
Bush
don't-
for that too.
You absolutely can. I guess what I'm saying is sometimes there is validity to pointing back, but
You just can't live off of
you
it.
can't live off of that, and you've got to take some ownership of it. I mean, I go back to this, and I know people have heard me talk about this before, but my first introduction to Kara Spencer was watching her in the immediate aftermath of last May's tornado.
Mhm.
And she was there, and she was like, sleeves rolled up. She was talking in depth to Josh Hawley. She was working with all of the officials there. There was nothing about partisanship there.
Mhm.
There was nothing about politics. It was all about, working together with the people that are involved here. And so I was like, okay, that's a good sign. She's not here to preen for the cameras and then snub that guy because he's a dirty Republican.
Right.
She's here to get stuff done for her constituents. And so I appreciate that about her. And I know she's in a tough spot, and she's going to have to deal with being in a tough spot.
And there are going to be times where we disagree with her. I mean, but she came in and said, hey, how about we fill the potholes? How about we pick up the trash?
Yeah.
How about we clear the snow and the
Good
ice
ideas,
off the roads?
Kara.
Let's
Good
Let's
ideas.
do that. And of course, people are going to say, looks like, what? But we don't have enough transgender flags in town. How
Oh,
dare you?
Again, with the priorities.
I know, exactly. And she's on board with a lot of that stuff, and she's had the
She
virtue
is.
signaling
She's very
press
progressive.
conferences.
Yes.
That
Yeah,
sort
but
of
she's
stuff.
also practical.
Yeah, she's got that sort of thing. But I think she truly is, far left. But she sees that running city government is very different. So I feel for the position she's in here.
I do too.
Not her fault.
No.
She's dealing with she's playing the hand that she's dealt.
Well, play it
But
well, Kara.
She was given a bad hand, and she can blame the state for giving her a bad hand, but she's got to give the city and the previous mayor and the current board of aldermen, they're the ones that really dealt the hand to her.
That's true.
Yep.
That's true. We have an exciting event coming up later this month, the St. Charles County Lincoln Trump Dinner. Join the St. Charles County Republican Central Committee for a great night of speeches, food, and fun, all to support the Republican Party in St. Charles County. It's Friday, March 20th at Old Hickory Golf Club in St. Peters. The VIP reception starts at 5:30. The dinner and program start at 6:30. Plus, you can enter the Second Amendment raffle that is being sponsored by our friends at Coral Roofing when you log on to register for the event. So just go to stcharlesgop.com for more info and to get registered, and we will see you there.
Mike Ferguson in the morning
I'm the boss.
on News Talk STL. If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new News Talk STL app
Love the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
and listen anytime, anywhere.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness One. Wellness One is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on Newstalk STL. And you can visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
I've got Dr. Michael Lewis here, West Point graduate, physician, and retired Army colonel. Is considered the world's leading expert on the use of omega-3s for traumatic brain injury and concussions. Stuart Tomp brings over 30 years of experience in the supplement industry, brought $1 billion of products to the market, and has appeared in over 6,000 media interviews worldwide, and travels internationally and teaches on health.
Stuart Tomk here, and I've come across the biggest breakthrough in personalized nutrition I've seen in 25 years.
Dr. Lewis here. For the first time, we can measure cellular and gut health. So you can start testing and stop guessing and make decisions based on real data. I'm working with world-class scientists and physicians, and what they're doing is changing everything.
You can message me at elizabeth@statmedicalllc.com. That is Elizabeth at statmedicalllc.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey, this is Vince Colonnese. I'll talk to you tonight at 8, but now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show on News Talk STL.
All right, how long is our adventures in the desert going to last this time around?
I'm going to trust what Jim Talent had to say.
Yeah,
I don't think very long.
You can check that out at our podcast. There was actually, I don't know if you saw this, Susie, there was a really good write-up about that. Made some national news on the conversation with Jim Talent and Bob Andre yesterday.
Oh, yeah? Was there?
That was at redstate.com.
Oh, wait. I do know that.
Yeah. Also, we'll revisit this. Parents get a rare win in California. We're going to go in. Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that a little bit more later on. And again, Billikens, surprisingly, I really thought they would drop out of the national rankings, but they stay in them barely, but they stay in them. All right, 6:49. Let's go ahead and do another news dump here.
The Morning News Dump. Are you joking? Is this a joke? Listen, folks, the Morning News Dump.
Okay, Trump administration is insisting that the war in Iran will not be an endless Middle East conflict.
Addressing concerns that combat operations could spiral into a long-running regional conflict, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said this military mission has a defined objective.
This is not Iraq. This is not endless.
He said the mission is to destroy the missile threat from Iran, destroy its navy, and prevent it from developing nuclear weapons.
We fight to win, and we don't waste time or lives.
Hegseth wouldn't rule out putting U.S. troops on the ground, saying the Pentagon will not forecast what it will or will not do. Greg Clugston, Washington.
And, of course, in Washington, D.C., here back stateside, this quickly is devolving or has devolved into the partisan. Hey, it's an election year.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's too big to not devolve it down to, talking points.
No. I mean, it was just always going to be that way.
That's the way it is. Yep, exactly. So Senator John Fetterman was on Hannity last night on Fox, and he actually is taking issue with some of his own people in the Democratic Party about the reasons that they're speaking out against it.
If you really believe that they should never acquire these kinds of nuclear weapons or these kinds of longer range kinds of missiles, and if somebody decides to do that and make sure that that's not going to happen, why can't we all just acknowledge that that's a good thing? Okay, so if you've got a sincere difference of policy or opinion, that's not a bad thing.
No.
There's no blanket rule that says you have to follow and accept whatever the leader does. What Fetterman is basically saying is, y'all are just looking for any reason for politics, and it doesn't matter what he does, you're going to complain about it. And again, I would go on to say what any Republican would do, although it's going to be a little more intense with Trump because he's, Trump. But like you said earlier, Susie, this is the kind of stuff that makes people so disgusted with everybody and says things like, a pox on both your houses.
Right. Yeah, because you're not doing this sincerely. Sincerely, It's all about politics. I mean, Fetterman, whatever, your concerns or questions about him might be, he's very consistent, particularly when it comes to, strong foreign policy, keeping Israel as an ally and working together with them. And this ties hand in hand. And he is rightly pointing out, look, you say you don't want Iran to have this capability. You've said that over and over and over again. Now you're mad because someone's making sure they don't have that ability.
Right.
And they would be all about it if this was Barack Obama.
Oh, without question. Without question. All right. And, of course, media and pundits and other politicians questioning the legality of it, saying, should Congress have been notified? Should Congress have given approval, authorization? The Speaker of the House was asked about that yesterday, and here's what Speaker Mike Johnson had to say.
It's not a declaration of war. It's not something that the president was required, because it's defensive in nature and in design and in necessity, to come to Congress and get a vote first. And if they had briefed a larger group than the Gang of Eight, there's a real threat that very sensitive intelligence that we had, might have been leaked.
Okay, so legally we are not at war. Practically, are we at war?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say practically we are. I mean, I think even Trump has kind of said it that way. But I do want to point out, yes, they notified the Gang of Eight ahead of time, and he has given a formal notice to Congress now.
Which you can look up and read.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know.
I was just going to reiterate, President Trump keeps using the term war, and I know that we can't always take everything he says word for word literally, but in his mind, one of his last Truth Social posts actually mentions that we have a virtually unlimited supply of weapons. These wars can be fought forever and very successfully just using these supplies, meaning the ammunition and weapons we have.
Well, that's comforting.
So I would like to be optimistic and say that we will be in and out as quickly as possible, but the current timeline that was projected is now going to be 4 to 5 weeks, but he said he's willing to prolong it as long as it takes. I just am not. I think it's a war. It's intended to be a war.
Right. No, I think I think it's fair to say that. I think it's also not legally a declaration of war. And I do think that we should make a movement to call the posts on Truth Social Truth Postals.
Troshals?
Yeah. I think that makes sense.
Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, I want to dig into this a little bit more here in the maybe 7 o'clock hour. So, Supreme Court hands parents a victory in California, at least for now. Okay, by a 6-3 ruling, the court reinstated a lower court's decision. This is where we get into the wonky legal layer thing. Okay, so the bottom line is that a state law banning public schools from informing parents if their child shows signs of gender dysphoria or other sexuality-related struggle. The school districts, the law that says you cannot tell the parents, that law is now blocked.
Paused.
Yeah.
On hold.
On hold. Now, this is not the final say, as the case can still be appealed, and I'm sure it will be. Eventually, it's going to end up at the Supreme Court for a final decision. But the ruling, the ruling was actually based on the plaintiffs are likely to succeed, and it was based on religious freedom.
Correct.
Which a lot of people may not realize.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is one of those things where the lower court entered an injunction. We've heard a lot about those this past year. And now that injunction is in effect, which holds up the law, and it's based on the parents' religious freedom.
Yeah.
And that's something that the Supreme Court has been pretty staunch about.
So if nothing else, if a parent is starting to suspect there's something wrong with little Jimmy, and he contacts the school saying, "What are you seeing?" they have to tell that parent now. They can't block and hide that parent, at least for the moment.
Yeah, and I don't know that they have an affirmative duty to, but there might, as you said, there might be broader reporting principles that are in play there, but I don't know how that plays out in California.
But they can't block and lie to the parents.
Correct.
I would think, to be fair on
Not
that,
legally.
which is what the schools have been doing. They have a law that says you are to block and lie to the parents.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. All right. This surprises me. The Billikens managed to hold on, and they stay in the national rankings.
Good for them.
Yeah, I really thought they, after 2 losses to second-tier teams within a week, I thought they would drop out of the top 25.
Yeah.
But the new AP poll has SLU at number 25, so they're barely hanging on there. Coach's poll has them at 24.
Here, they're chinny chin chins.
Yep. Billikens host Loyola Chicago tomorrow. Obviously, that's at Chaifetz Arena. A big win there can kind of dig in their heels and hang on. Yep. Illinois is at 11 in both polls this week. They are at home against Oregon tonight. Mizzou actually had a significant number of votes in both of those polls. They just didn't make it into the top 25. But Mizzou, because they upset, who was it they upset? Was it Tennessee the other day? A ranked team within the last week. But Mizzou's actually maybe, yeah. But they're building some momentum on there. But I don't think they're going to make it in the top 25. But they could have a mid-tier seating in the tournament.
Yeah, that could be like maybe 8 or 9.
Yeah, it could be something like that. Exactly. All right, Cardinals get a 3-2 win over the Marlins in spring training. Colton Ledbetter, whoever that is, hit the walk-off single in the bottom of the 9th to drive in Mike Antico, whoever that is.
They're the winners, Mike. They're the winners.
Yeah, it was funny because when I looked them up on the stats thing on MLB, there weren't even pictures of these guys. There was just the blank outline of person here.
They're NPCs.
These are not exactly,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. All right, the Cards do not have a game today, but this is interesting. Team USA prepares for the World Baseball Classic with an exhibition game against the San Francisco Giants this afternoon. That first pitch is at a very specific 2:08.
Oh,
very
okay.
Specific. And that is going to be on ESPN. It's kind of fun because basically a bunch of the World Baseball Classic teams have exhibitions against Major League teams today. I love the World Baseball Classic. I wish people got more excited about that. That's really a cool thing for the game.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.
Is diabetes keeping you from enjoying life's special moments? At U.S. Med, we understand the challenges you face, and we're here to help.
With U.S. Med, I can finally manage my diabetes without it managing me.
U.S. Med offers a wide range of services to simplify your diabetes care. Personalized care plans, convenient access to cutting-edge diabetes tech, and knowledgeable support. Plus, we'll check your insurance so your diabetes care may be covered at little or no cost to you.
With U.S. Med, I feel confident and control of my diabetes. I can finally live my life to the fullest.
Don't let diabetes hold you back. Choose U.S. Med and experience better birthdays, better adventures, better anniversaries, and better everything. Call now. U.S. Med. Better service, better care. 800-515-2380. 800-515-2380. 800-515-2380. That's 800-515-2380.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. On this day 4 of the liberation of Iran.
Iranian state TV says strikes caused 2 explosions at a broadcasting facility in Tehran, but said no one was injured. Iran's ambassador to the International Atomic Energy Agency told reporters that airstrikes targeted the Natanz nuclear enrichment site on Sunday. Israel and the U.S. have not acknowledged strikes at the site, which the U.S. bombed in the 12-day war between Iran and Israel in June. Israel says it's targeting the leadership in nuclear infrastructure. Iran says that it has not enriched uranium since June, though it's maintained its right to do so and says its nuclear program is peaceful. I'm Haya Panjwani.
House Speaker Mike Johnson describes the U.S.-Israel mission as a defensive operation.
I think that operation will be wound up quickly. By God's grace, it will. That is our prayer for everybody involved, our troops and everyone else. And, of course, for the people of Iran.
No injuries in an Iranian drone strike on the U.S. Embassy in the Saudi capital. A federal court is rejecting the Trump administration's bid to slow tariff refunds.
The U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit started the next phase in the tariff refund process by sending it to a lower court to sort out. In a court filing, the Trump Justice Department had urged the Federal Circuit to proceed cautiously and hold off for 90 days, but the judges refused. The Supreme Court ruled 10 days ago that Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs on most countries in the world were illegal, clearing the way for the importers who paid them to seek refunds.
And that's correspondent Bill Alexander. With the strategic Strait of Hormuz effectively closed by Iranian threats on shipping, crude oil prices have been soaring. While on Wall Street, stock futures are sharply lower. The Dow futures down 654 points. NASDAQ futures off 435. More on these stories, townhall.com.
They say timing is everything in the gold and silver markets, and it's true. Dennis Prager here for AmFed Coin and Bullion. Although you can buy at the right time, if you buy the wrong coins, you may not make a profit. When gold was $400 an ounce, many people were talked into buying high-grade old gold and silver collector's coins. Unfortunately, most of the people who bought these so-called semi-numismatic coins, like the $20 St. Gordon's and Liberty Head gold coins, have not broken even on their investment. Incredible, given that gold has risen approximately 525% since then. So while timing is everything, if you buy the wrong coins, the timing simply doesn't matter. Having a dealer who cares about positioning you in the right types of coins or bullion will mean more to your portfolio than anything else. That's why I deal with Nick Rovich and AmFed Coin and Bullion. Whether you're buying or selling, call 800-221-7694. That's 800-221-7694. Or go to AmericanFederal.com. AmericanFederal.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Gotch with your first alert forecast. We're going to continue to track scattered showers and storms today. Highs into the upper 50s, then into Wednesday, first alert weather day. Seeing the potential for strong to severe storms from 11 a.m. towards 6 p.m. as we head towards the afternoon, early evening hours. Hail and stronger winds going to be the primary threats within that system. We'll see temperatures continue to rise throughout the second half of the week, eventually going to be looking to top back out towards 80 degrees into Friday, then more widespread chances of showers Saturday. From the First Alert Ford Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Mike Ferguson.
I'm a stud. I'm ballsy. I don't take no from anyone.
Susie Moore.
I disagree on his assessment of the situation.
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice. Drain the swamp and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Okay, we've talked about the politics of it, the questions. Democrats and a few Republicans are talking about the legality of it, and we're talking about the impact of Operation Epic Fury. But what does a war in the Middle East look like from the perspective of the men and the women sent there to fight it? Because so often, you look everything from the news coverage to the history books, it all gets talked about in the ether, in the grand
political
scale,
sphere, really.
right? And not from the perspective of those who were sent there to do it, who are following the orders of their commanders and the commander-in-chief to accomplish a mission. You know who's been there and done that? That would be Colonel William Dunn, Burner Dunn.
All right.
Got the Colonel back on with us. Good to have you back on, Colonel. Thanks for being back on the program here. So when you got the news and you saw what happened, like the rest of us, as the attack is launched and where it is, you're gonna have a different reaction having been in the situation in that region of the world than obviously the rest of us who just look at it from the outside looking in. What was it that spoke to you, and what was your first reaction to seeing the news of how this Operation Epic Fury was being executed?
Well, first of all, I was not surprised. I had worked on different planning levels over my time in the Marine Corps. I actually deployed a unit into the Middle East in 2012 to support what I would consider a similar action that never took place. So the planning has been going on for decades. This is not new. You've seen some of the rhetoric, 47 some years of this Iranian dictatorship swearing death to America, death to Israel. So the plan is what I consider a normal military operation, where you're going to start with their air defenses, then their aircraft, and in this case, their sea warfare capability. I believe we pretty much eliminated their Navy. And then what's going to continue going on is we'll take out their war supporting infrastructure. It's a normal plan. And when you have overwhelming force like we do here in this arena, then it's happening pretty quickly. So it was not a surprise. The kickoff was not a surprise. I told the folks that we work with that this weekend I was 99% sure we were going to roll in an attack. It had to happen, in my opinion. I think Iran may have been closer in different ways of getting a nuclear weapon. I think our intel is pretty solid. And the mission, Epic Fury, is going to probably achieve its goals, hopefully sooner than we expected. And the bad part of that is it's a dangerous game, and we've lost at least right now 6 Americans, and it's a shame, but it's probably a requirement that we have to take this out now.
Good morning, Colonel Dunn. This is Susie Moore. How important is it from I guess, a morality or morale standpoint and just overall attitude for the troops that are there to get the message that they've been getting from, for instance, the Secretary of War during the press conference yesterday, and from Admiral Cooper, the letter that he sent out to the service members that are going to be involved in this operation? That messaging seems very direct and very, to my civilian view, powerful, but how does that land with the troops?
It's extremely important. And I've been in combat in Iraq several times. It's very important to know that the President of the United States and, back then the DOD, but the Department of War has your back and is going to support you and give you everything you need to conduct your missions. That's the most important thing. What you don't want to do is go into combat and feeling like the only people that are supporting you is your brother or your sister that's to your right or your left. So when you're getting this from the administration and it's very obvious they're pouring in every asset that the commander needs to fight this fight, that's a great feeling if you are the guy on the ground sitting there, or if you're flying an airplane. So I think it's amazing. What I would love to see is that same support come from, both sides of the aisle, both Republicans and Democrats. You may not like the President of the United States, but don't try to deter the assets that are being pushed forward to fight this fight. And I think our American warriors would love to hear that the Democrats are supporting them as well. I personally would.
Good morning, Colonel William Dunn. Thank you again for joining us this morning. There's been quite a bit of pushback from the young right, the millennial Gen Z youth that are on the right regarding some of these operations as well. The last poll that I saw, I think, said between all American groups, about 27% of people actually support the Iranian strike, while a significant amount are also indifferent to it. So do you have a message to the youth that are maybe outraged or mad or feel betrayed by the campaign promise of no new wars?
I do. They don't understand the intel. They're not being briefed on the intel. They don't understand the impact it would have if a nuclear weapon was developed by Iran and then either used in the United States or used in Israel or used anywhere. They don't understand that. And I think what happens is you get a level of our society that does not realize that the threat is actually there. When Iran chants death to America, they mean it. When they chant death to Israel, they mean it. And unfortunately, some of our citizens don't realize that these threats are real. The other thing they don't realize is the Venezuelan operation, the Iranian operation, will have lasting effects on our peer competitor, which is China, because China was getting tremendous assets in oil and other things in and out of both those countries. That reduction of that capability will have a negative impact on China, which is probably our greatest threat right now, greatest peer competitor. So they're not thinking the big picture. What they're seeing the media go, no new wars, and oh my God, we're dropping bombs. If you say no new wars and then the enemy changes, you still are obliged to protect our nation, period.
We're visiting with Colonel William Dunn, author of the book Gunfighter's Rule, which we'll tell you how to get that here in just a couple of minutes. Okay, so what's next when it comes to the security of the country? For instance, now, you've mentioned, the overwhelming dominance that we have on the battlefield there, in the air, in the water, possibly on the ground, depending on how that goes. But in this day and age, the threat and the retaliation isn't just limited to geography right there. What do we need to worry about, not just for our men and women in uniform there, but also here in the mainland?
Well, first of all, we need to not repeat our Iraq mistake. I was on the ground in Iraq when we were given the order to fire the interim government of Iraq and to do what was known as de-Baathification. We all knew it was a bad idea. We were ordered to do it. At the time, I was in Karbala, and I talk a lot about this in the book. I was in Karbala working with an interim government. I had to go in that morning with our battalion commander and tell the interim government they were fired. Then a 20-year insurgency started. We fired the military. We fired anyone that could run the country. I am positive this administration has learned from that. Some of the people that are now in charge of this war were young officers and young enlisted folks that now know how to prosecute this next stability op. So hopefully we won't do that. But the next phase, and I know there's phases of war, and I'm not talking about the phases of war, but the next phase is going to have to be an interim government, an interim solution that maintains security inside Iran for two purposes mainly. And, there's many reasons, but the biggest purpose is to protect the civilians. We do not want to have a humanitarian disaster in Iran after we take out a regime to help the Iranian people. We don't want them to then die because of humanitarian disaster. And then the second thing, and just as important, Iran does have a tremendous amount of weapons. They're stored everywhere. They're stored in mountains, underground bunkers. We, as the world, need to make sure that those weapons do not get into terrorist hands. That was a huge failure during Iraq. We watched one day, I personally saw trucks this was after major combat operations ended, trucks going into bunkers, pulling out tons and tons of ammunition, and we were not allowed to engage those vehicles. We had to let them go. And so, they're taking weapons there, you are not allowed to engage. And then, of course, the next 20 years, they probably used many of those weapons against us in Iraq.
Wow. Colonel, do you have a sense, I know there are messages being sent out to members of the IRGC encouraging them to basically abandon their post and give themselves up and then being promised immunity for doing so. Do you have a sense as to whether that's going to be, how much success that will be met with? Are there going to be factions that will do that? Because I think that's critical to getting this change implemented as far as the regime.
That's a tough one. It's interesting. If I look at my own perspective as a warfighter, I would never want any of my Marines to, lay down their arms in front of the enemy. In this scenario, if those troopers in the IRGC or anywhere in Iran also felt that the regime was brutal and terrible, we may be able to get there. The problem would be is if they pretend to lay down their arms, and then when things calm down, they pick them back up and they start killing Iranian citizens or whatever interim government that comes in. I think it was a brilliant play. Give them an out. You never want to back your enemy to a wall where there's no way out but to kill them. If you do that, if you don't have the weapons to drop a bomb on them per se, and you have to send in troops to kill someone, that's very dangerous. And we've seen that in Fallujah in many stories throughout our history of a city or something that you have to go in and clear. It's very, very dangerous, and we don't want to have to do that at all in Iran. So if you give them a way out, I think it's possible that reduces the pressure and can ultimately save lives. But it's risky business because you don't know. The enemy has a say in all of this, and we don't. There's been no negotiation. They said they want to since the Ayatollah was taken out, but I haven't seen anything open source that shows me that there's any actual negotiations. They're attacking civilian centers. They're attacking civilian capabilities throughout the region. So Iran is showing itself to be a true pariah, and I think that actually played into our hands a little bit.
All right. The book is Gunfighters Rule. We find it where, Colonel? You can get anywhere you get books. Easiest place is Amazon.com. You Google it up, Gunfighters Rule, and it'll pop right up. All right. I think it's already on the NewsTalkSTL bookstore as well on our website. So, Colonel Dunn, great chatting with you again. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much for having me. You have a wonderful day, and I'm praying for all of our brothers and sisters that are fighting this war.
Amen. Thank you, sir. The Supreme Court has taken on California law and, at least for now, restored a basic right for parents. And at 7:20, we're going to explain what's going on and what this could mean across the country.
Don't try to make me stop, no inspiration. You have a soul so dark, it is no more. And all at once depart, no destination.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I like it, but they're going a little overboard with the dancing.
On News Talk STL. Colombo and Company.
On Tuesday, we'll get you the latest info on what's happening with Iran, and we'll be joined by Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com and Susie Moore from The Morning Show and Red State.
Live and local, weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Hey, it's Vic and Ken with something important.
Yeah, Missouri's veterans aren't done serving, they're leading.
Join us March 5th, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Washington University's historic Holmes Lounge for the next mission, Missouri's Veterans Leading the Way.
Hear from General Frank Grass, former member of the Joint Chiefs, plus veteran leaders from Equifax and Scale AI.
Business leaders, veterans, and community members from across Missouri. This conversation on veteran leadership and mental health matters.
It's free and open to the public, but seating is limited.
Register now at welcomehomeforum.org.
Springtime in St. Louis, and if you hate to paint, do what your neighbor Mr. Rob Miller from Harvesttown Auto Body in St. Peters did. He called Rhino Shield. Rob, what was the thought process for going with Rhino Shield as a business owner?
My family's business is over 10,000 square feet, and it did not have the curb appeal I wanted.
Rob, tell everyone how the experience was with Rhino Shield from start to finish.
The process that I liked was when you came out, you gave me all of these options that would fit my building. Our building was really faded. I don't want to have to paint my building again. 25 years is a long time to not have to worry about the outside maintenance of your building as far as paint. That's a no-brainer. That's why Rhino Shield worked for me.
Are your neighbors jealous?
I would be if I was them.
Thanks, Rob. Now it's time to call 877-25-RHINO. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Genius.
No paint, don't Rhino. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Live and local.
Listen to what those local folks are telling you.
News Talk STL.
Good morning, Missouri. It's your boy, Joe Pags. I'll talk to you tonight at 10. But right now, let's get back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right, the Supreme Court steps in and tells public schools, yes, you must tell parents when their kid is messing with their sex and gender in a mental health way.
Mm-mm. No, they said you can't
prohibit
them from doing it.
You can't ban them.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Seems like basic morality, or at least getting close to it.
It seems like it.
Yeah, but that's all lost on the extreme leftist in most public schools at this point. So at issue here is the California law, and the weird thing is, I remember when this law was passed because we were covering those things. And here's when I'm putting together shows. I mean, it's really easy to go find rage bait of the extreme fringe out there all the time. I mean,
plenty to go
that's
with.
easy to do, and I try to be a little smarter, than that. And so far, thank you to everybody. You've reacted very well, and we've had some great conversations on this. But then there are other things that are so foundational that this now is likely to become something that affects the whole country. So at issue is this California law, 314-912-1019. I've got some thoughts on it. California law that banned public schools from informing parents that their children are showing signs of gender dysphoria, or their boy says, treat me like a girl, or their girl says, treat me like a boy, or they say, you know what, I'm quote unquote non-binary, all these made up things that aren't even real. But the law said the schools take over in rearing, and they are the wall between the children and their mental illness and the parents.
Mm-hmm.
And so
you got to protect the kids from their parents.
You have to protect the kids from the parents because the parents might not, quote unquote, affirm it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it was framed. And it's just pure evil that something like this would even be proposed, much less passed and signed into law. Okay. Now this I would argue isn't even the worst of the California laws on this sort of thing, but it's one of them. And so that's being challenged on religious freedom grounds. Parents saying, I've got the right to rear my children with the values that I have. And so back and forth in the courts, and the Supreme Court basically ruled that as it stands right now, a lower court's ruling that says, no, the parents are right, that stays in place while a likely appeals process happens.
Well, almost.
Okay. What'd I get wrong?
So the lower court ruling is just an injunction, and it's saying the law stays on hold while we have a trial on the validity of the law. So the lower court hasn't even finally ruled on the merits. Eventually, that court will. That judge has signaled that they're likely to find that the law is not, is unconstitutional and therefore not strike down the law. At which point, the state would appeal it to the Ninth Circuit. And depending on what the Ninth Circuit does, which it could agree with the lower court, particularly given the guidance that it just got from the Supreme Court, preliminarily, and then all the way up to the Supreme Court. So there's several steps in the process before this is finalized. Right. But right now, the law is on hold because the lower court said the parents have a valid argument here, and they're probably likely to succeed.
And then what's murky here is, what does this mean if you are one of the public school districts in the state of California? What does this mean to them? I mean, it means they're not allowed to ban your administration or staff or teachers from contacting and say, by the way, little Joey, or how about little, trying to think of a name that couldn't be used for either one. Little Marcus, he's wanting to wear a mini skirt and sing "I Feel Pretty." Maybe you should be aware. So they can't block them.
Right, they're not prohibited from doing
that. They can't ban
that.
them by law of doing that. So what does that mean, if anything, at this point?
It may not mean a whole lot of anything. It may just mean kind of like status quo. Because I don't know California law, and I don't know what mandatory reporting requirements there are. What are you as a school district, as a school administrator or teacher, required to report to parents under California law? I don't know the answer to that. Right. But at a minimum, you're not blocked from saying, hey, there might be an issue here. Maybe we should have a conference. Maybe we should have a conversation. And so that's a good thing, because at minimum, those administrators and teachers who genuinely care about the well-being of their students and want their parents to be part of that process are not prohibited. Their hands aren't tied as far as letting them know, hey, there might be an issue here.
Well, and part of the ruling that was handed down referenced the fact that the parents are the ones who should be in charge of this. Referring back to the religious freedom, basically, and I'm going to paraphrase here, essentially what the law is doing is saying that the people who are the most responsible for the upbringing of the children have a right to be in charge of the upbringing of the children.
Yeah, that shouldn't really be like that. Right. That should just be like a given.
Well, see, but that's the biggest. That's one of the aspects of the ideological battleground here, is that the fringe left, the far left, they believe the state should be the primary parent of the children.
The collective.
Yes, the collective is, God is the state is God. I mean, go back to the old play. But this is, or the old book. And so this is one of those fundamental good versus evil situations. I'm not even talking about the teacher who puts up the so-called trans flag and has the, pig nose ring. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fundamental belief that the state, because remember, your public school district is a government, that they are the ones who have the right and they are the final authority on how a child is going to be reared and trained. And that's truly how so many people think.
It is. And it's bizarre. I mean, it's kind of ties in with the whole it takes a village mentality. And yes, I mean, you want a community. You want there to be involvement in the community. But the bottom line is it starts with the parents. It starts at home. And yes, there are situations where the parents do present a danger. That's when
abusive situations.
That's when you are a mandatory reporter. That's when the state should be getting involved. But just because the parents don't have the same viewpoint that you think is proper, that's not abuse. And you don't get to make that decision for them and how they raise their kids and with what values.
Yeah, and that's the difference in the worldview, saying, but the state will make a decision as to which viewpoints and views are valid and which are not. And therefore, that's the difference here.
No.
So, I thought you, okay.
Nope. We have a very special guest that's waiting for us. So that's all that was.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah.
So Monty does bring up a good, an interesting point though, because His essential complaint is that it looks like there are quite a few judges out there that don't actually care what the Constitution or what Supreme Court judge orders are. They're going to find ways to try to get around that to do their activism anyways. And Susie happens to know a lot about the law, so
I have an opinion on that.
Yeah.
I understand why there's that perception. But those are the cases you hear about. The ones you hear about are the ones that are outlandish. The rulings you hear about, the judges you hear about are the ones that are making these obnoxious, crazy rulings. Day in and day out, there are judges that are doing their jobs, that are following the Constitution and following the law, and you don't hear about them because it's like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So, yes, I understand the perception, and yes, there are plenty of liberal activist judges. We're seeing them in spades right now. But that's not all of them, and that's not even most of them.
So this is more of a case of maybe like a survivor's bias or confirmation bias, where it appears to be so common because we see it so often because we're not seeing all the good times.
Right.
Because if they're doing their job right, it doesn't make
That doesn't get covered in the news. We're not going to write an article about some decision that just completely makes sense, follows the law, and doesn't really do anything other than what it's supposed to do.
And in this case, it also reminds you, again, why those April elections matter so much around here.
Mm-hmm.
When your school board elections matter so much around here. You know, why it's so dang hard to rein in and get control of a school district, whereas it's easier to win and flip other political seats. But there's so much more at stake here with the public school system. And this is a case in point, because don't think this is limited to California. People with that mindset are not likely. I pretty much guarantee you, people with that mindset are in every public school right here in the St. Louis metro area.
Plan to vote in April. I'll be voting in Fort Zumwalt.
There you go.
Well, one thing is also clear is that unless Missouri's lawmakers completely drop the ball, we will have some kind of tax reform happening this year, which I think everybody should be able to agree that's a fantastic thing. And our friends at the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise have an event coming up to help us understand what's at stake. Get the details coming up here at 7:35.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
What was once considered radical is now mainstream.
On NewsTalkSTL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Gotch with your first alert forecast. We're going to continue to track scattered showers and storms today. Highs into the upper 50s, then into Wednesday. First alert weather day, seeing the potential for strong to severe storms from 11 a.m. towards 6 p.m. As we head towards the afternoon, early evening hours. Hail and stronger winds going to be the primary threats within that system. We'll see temperatures continue to rise throughout the second half of the week, eventually going to be looking to top back out towards 80 degrees into Friday, then more widespread chances of showers Saturday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
When insurance companies know you're represented by under law, they know you're not going to be pushed around. So if you suffer an injury, damage to your property, serve the insurance company notice you have under law on your side. A St. Louis firm you can trust to protect you at every turn, not settle for less. You want to win? Call 314-9-MILLION. 314-9-MILLION. Under wins.
Larry Connor's Commentary, brought to you by Vincent's Jewelers, offering a wide selection of jewelry, including lab-grown diamonds, affordable earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and rings, up to 75% off their natural counterparts. Visit VincentsJewelers.com. This is Larry Connor's Commentary on NewsTalkSTL.
Leftists have no issue with lying to your face, and depending on the audience, they get away with it. Recently on CNN, a Democrat proclaimed as fact that during the State of the Union, Trump called Democrats monsters and they should be killed. Her words. Now, if you were to look at the transcript, you're not going to find anything anywhere close to that. Okay, maybe Trump went off script. Pull up the video, the audio of the entire speech. Look for where he said Democrats are monsters who should be killed. You still won't find it. Why? Because he never said it. Yet this leftist idiot proclaims it as an undeniable fact while appearing on CNN. A Republican on the same program quickly called her out for lying. And in the beginning, she was defensive, insisting, no, Trump said that. Finally, she had to admit, Perhaps I was being hyperbolic. Perhaps. Anyway, she backpedaled, trying to soften her remarks. But how many leftists heard her first remark and found another reason to hate Trump, another false reason? Just don't let the facts get in the way of a good lie.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
Public schools, like public libraries, should be free and open to all. Open enrollment allows parents to choose the school that's the best fit for their children. Maybe another school has a wider curriculum, is bigger or smaller. Maybe a kid is being bullied and would be more comfortable at another school. 75% of parents favor open enrollment. Open enrollment programs now exist in 43 states, and Missouri should join them. Our next-door neighbor, Kansas, has one of the strongest open enrollment policies in the nation. Kansas parents are trusted with choices and options, while Missouri parents must move out of their home to change public schools. And it's a trend. Nationwide, the percentage of students going to their chosen public school has steadily increased. Assigning kids to schools based on their zip code is the old way. Open enrollment is a better way. Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com is your one-stop shop for expert insured tree care and more in the greater St. Louis region and at the Lake of the Ozarks. Visit hansonstree.com for 24/7 emergency tree care, grinding and land clearing, awesome organic mulch, green resource recycling, and more. Tim Jones here to tell you that whether you're dealing with old man winter at your home or business in the St. Louis region or preparing your lake home for spring, call Hanson's to help you out. No job too big or too small. Mention News Talk STL. Receive 10% off all tree care services. hansonstree.com, hansonstree.com.
I think you're a little confused.
News, analysis, opinion.
I've got something to say and I can't hold it any longer.
101.9 and 94.1.
You won't hear the truth anywhere but here. News Talk STL.
News Talk STL.
A Monday warrior, mean strike. Today's Tom Sawyer, mean pride.
The Mike Ferguson Show is one of my favorite programs. In addition to Larry Connors USA, catch my program at 6. Now, back to Mike.
All right, so we've got the sort of political, for lack of a better term, marketing that happens over stuff. There's the social media soundbite part of the debates, and then there's the actual policy debates, and that's what ends up deciding if we get things like tax cuts and tax reform and how things actually affect our lives. And coming up later this month, actually, just got a few weeks from now, our friends at the Hammond Institute for Free Enterprise are saying, you know what, we got an expert to come in that can kind of inform you, kind of arm you with facts so that you can essentially apply that when you're talking to your lawmakers and when we're trying to get some changes made. And Grant Black from the Hammond Institute joins me right now. And this is coming up here March 25th. This is another one of these events that's it's free, and if people don't go, they're simply giving up the chance to be better informed, and they're giving up a chance to be more effective when it comes to talking with our lawmakers and policymakers on this. So what's coming up here?
Yeah, good morning. Well, we've got, I think, a great speaker coming in to really shed light on a lot of these tax issues that are going on in Missouri right now. We have the Vice President of State Tax Policy from the Tax Foundation. So they're an incredibly reputable organization nationwide. They do a lot of tax consulting with most states at a state level, local level, national level. So they're very plugged into what's going on here. They provide a really great objective view that I think's meant to just be informative, tell people what we think really the issues are, what these policies will and won't do, what the sort of pros and cons are, and let people be able to make up their minds about what they think's the right thing to do.
Grant, we're heading into, or we're kind of in the middle of tax season for most people, and that's when I think they're more tuned into this idea of how much you actually pay in taxes and what that actually means. But from a practical standpoint, I think sometimes it's this sort of esoteric idea, like, you know, oh, you're talking about tax policy. What does that mean to me as an individual? What are the things that we are trying to zero in on in Missouri to make the tax environment better for Missourians? Something that kind of translates concretely to the everyday person.
Well, I'll say this. Any kind of tax system, whether that's at a national level, a state level, a local level, you're really thinking about several sort of key principles and foundations that underlie what that tax system should really look like. That's things like fairness, which is really saying those with similar circumstances should sort of pay similar taxes. Things like simplicity. Is it easy to understand? Is it easy to comply with? Is it easy to administer? Things like neutrality, where we're not trying to distort people's behaviors very much. Things like stability. Are these permanent? Can we kind of predict here's reliable revenues for government? Things like that. And competitiveness. So having, relatively low tax rates that help foster positive economic growth. And so you're trying to find a system that sort of pulls all that together, and that's incredibly hard to do.
Yes, it is.
In Missouri, obviously, we're wrestling with things like property tax issues, state income tax. So there's been lots of things on the table by lots of different politicians thinking about, do we eliminate some of these taxes? Do we cap them in some way to provide relief? Or changes in how we're kind of funding things, thinking about the competitiveness of our state compared to others that surround us that might have taxes some may prefer. And so that's what we really want to address here in particular, is thinking about the elimination of the state income tax, what that might mean in terms of expanding sales tax or property taxes. Obviously, a lot of politicians are looking at capping, eliminating property taxes in different ways. So there's lots of different kind of proposals out there, but that's sort of the issues that we'll be looking at that night.
The event's happening March 25th. That's called Missouri's Tax Future. It's going to be at Lindenwood University in Dunn Auditorium. You can get your free RSVP tickets. That's at hammondinstitute.org, and it's right there. So if somebody's a little intimidated, Grant, and they're saying, boy, that's really wonky, that's over my head, are you just going to try to teach me the tax code and when that's not what this is about. This is about really how it applies to you. So somebody comes in and says, "Listen, I'm not an accountant. I'm not an auditor. I'm just a guy who either works at a small business, has a regular job. I own a business. I'm trying to figure out my family's future. I want to retire. Whatever their personal situation is. What is it that they're going to be able to take from this? Because if they come to something like this, it clearly means they're more connected than the average bear out there. So what are they going to be able to do with the information that they're going to get from this? It's not just going to be a class on taxes, right?
No, that's exactly right. So this is intentionally designed to not be academic. So this is meant for the average person on the street to get clarity about what these issues are, to really think about sort of what the pros and cons, what are the costs and benefits of these kinds of policies are, who's affected. So, if you think about kind of the questions that get raised when a lot of proposals like this come up, who's affected by changes like this? What does this mean to maybe our, state or local governments? What does this mean in my community? What does this mean to taxpayers? How does the distribution of the tax burden perhaps change? What are sort of maybe spillover effects onto other kinds of taxes? If, for example, we're going to cut income taxes, we're going to have to pick and replace those revenues somewhere, and so some other tax is going to be increased.
Yeah,
That's likely sales taxes, for example.
Right.
So thinking about things of how does this sort of affect different people and what those sort of trade-offs are, I think that's really important with these. Who doesn't like when everybody says, let's cut taxes? Who sort of doesn't want to support that?
Sure.
Right? Everybody thinks, hey, that's great. Well, I think you need to be aware there's going to be a trade-off somewhere. And so recognizing what that means in your life, or what that trade-off may look like, and for others, do we still think that's worthwhile or not?
Right. I think one of the biggest selling points, or the things, the intrigue, and when you're having these discussions, is comparing, what are our neighboring states doing, and what is succeeding for them, what's not succeeding for them. I think people by nature are competitive, and they want to feel like Missouri is in there and can compete with Indiana and Iowa and Kansas and even Tennessee. What do you feel like is the best way to present that information to people who are interested in this discussion, as far as showing what we could do in Missouri, what we could do better, and how we could be more competitive with our neighboring states?
Well, I think that's where the expertise of the Tax Foundation really comes into play. They rank all of the states based on tax competitiveness. So part of this discussion that night will be really an overview of, hey, where does Missouri really sit? How do we compare to perhaps surrounding states? What are the experience of states that have eliminated income taxes and things like that? What have sort of been the experiences that we've seen? And what are some of the takeaways of, hey, is there a better way to perhaps do things like this? Or, maybe this didn't turn out quite like what people thought, or, so a lot of it's going to be, I think, a very simple an assessment of where we really are that people can understand, make sense of, and get a good grasp on, hey, where does Missouri sit? What are really the challenges we're facing? And how does some reform in the tax system can play a role to help us?
Yeah, I mean, people are really, really fired up, and we take the taxes personally, and people don't understand the code. I think partly by designed to be overly complicated so normal people don't understand it. And that's part of the problem here. But we talk about, demanding our lawmakers, and we've had a number of lawmakers on the show saying, yeah, cutting taxes is also a way to restrain government, by simply starving it of the fuel, to some degree, which is a whole other set of policy preferences and policy principles as well. And so, for something like this event on March 25th, I don't want people being scared to think I'm not going to understand, because the whole point of this is so that you understand, and therefore you can be more effective in whatever your involvement is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, this is intentionally designed for the public. This is not an academic exercise. This is really meant to share, hopefully easy to understand information, get a good grasp on what's going on, what these different objectives are, and how they're going to come about. And so I think people can really walk away feeling like, I have a much better feel for what these are, because you're absolutely right that you mentioned earlier, so much of what we're inundated with is just quick sound bites, a quick social media post. And so getting a chance to see a little more depth, a little broader perspective, I think is really, really helpful.
Great. I know you all are approaching this from the discussion standpoint, and maybe not specifically what the legislature is, where they are in the process. But obviously, this is a big topic for this session for the Missouri legislature. And are you all getting a sense of, is the momentum there? Is this something that we're seeing the buy-in from lawmakers on, where we might actually get some positive reforms?
I think there certainly could be. I mean, obviously, these things have been talked about a lot over the years and different people, but I think we're at a place, there is a momentum. And so I think you'll likely see some kind of changes occurring. I don't know what the depth of that may look like. And there's a wide range of what these proposals are sort of allowing and how they can be done. Sometimes some of them are kind of pushing for voters are going to have a voice and be able to approve things, certain kinds of changes. So it may not happen too quickly. Even the changes that come in, a lot of them are being phased in over time.
Right.
So even if some of the policies get through, but I think there is an urgency that with this session, and that's in part why this became a priority for us to try to get something in during this while the legislature was in, to try to address a lot of these issues going on.
Okay, this is happening Wednesday, March 25th, 6:30. 6:30, 7:30. I mean, you're not going to be there all night.
No, this isn't long. Still squeeze in dinner before or after.
Right.
That's right. And this is part of the H.F. Langenberg Memorial Speaker Series, which has been in place for years with the Hammond Institute at Lindenwood University right there on campus. No cost, but you really would prefer people RSVP at least.
Yes.
So you can know, who's going to, or not even who's, just how many people are going to be there.
That's right. So you can just register for free online at hammondinstitute.org and make it really, really simple. All
right. And once again, that's going to be March 25th. That's a Wednesday, so probably not as much of a chance that a bunch of state lawmakers are going to be there, because they're going to be in Jefferson City. But, boy, this will be good for a lot of your local policymakers and lawmakers or officials to be there and get an idea for how this actually affects our lives in every way.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We hope to see a wide mix of people there.
Grant, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
As of right now, there are 3 candidates for St. Louis County Executive, and you can find our discussions with Republican Dennis Hancock and Democrat Brian Williams on our podcast page at 8:05. The other Democrat in the race, County Assessor Jake Zimmerman, joins us to explain his vision for the county. It is springtime, And it is time for you to start thinking about when you're going to be more outside, and maybe you're not going to be spending as much time in your house, but that doesn't mean you don't want your house to look lovely. It doesn't mean you don't want it to be freshened up. Maybe you're thinking you need new flooring. If you are, Michael's Flooring Outlet, that's where you need to go. They're locally owned and operated family business for more than 30 years, so you know you can count on them. I've used them in the past. I had a great experience with them, and you will too. If it's variety you're looking for, Michael's has it. They've got carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, and many other options for you to choose from. Plus, you know with Michael's, your installation is going to be done right the first time because it's being done by the experts at Michael's, no subcontractors. With Michael's, you get the best combination ever. You get great quality and you save money. So if you are in the market for new flooring, go check out Michael's. You can shop in store at one of their 3 locations, on Olive and Creve Coeur, on Town Square in Darting Prairie, or on Main Street in St. Peters. Or you can shop from the comfort of your own home. Just go online to igotfloored.com.
1 in 4 women will have an abortion before the age of 45 in this country. That's the tragedy we must work to stop. Mike Ferguson from The Morning Show here, and that is why Reach Reproductive Health is here, to empower parents to save the lives of innocent children and to see these families come to Christ. And you can be a part of saving and changing lives. So pray and visit outreachforlife.org to learn more, volunteer, and donate. That's outreachforlife.org.
Columbo here for my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton. The knowledgeable staff at Bluff City has served the St. Louis outdoor community for decades, and they can take care of all your bow hunting needs, all your trapping needs, all your fishing needs, and more. Plus, while you're there, you can schedule a trip with a local fishing guide and shoot in their archery range. Bluff City Outdoors is open 7 days a week, 1 mile east of Fast Eddie's at 2813 East Broadway in Alton. Follow them on Facebook and at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
I love that you're starting your day off right with Mike Ferguson in the morning. It's your boy Joe Pags. Talk to you tonight. But now let's get back to Mike.
All right. Are we fixing a problem by ending a threat, or are we going to be in this for the long haul? Maybe both. You know, what's the answer? I mean, the short answer is there is no short answer at the moment.
There is no short answer, except for, I think, one of the clear messages that's coming from the administration right now is that this is not something that they want to see go on for very long. They want to they do have a clear objective, it seems.
Yep.
And they want to get in and get out, get it over with.
Now, it also, they're stopping short of promising that it's going to be a short thing.
That's true.
Matter of fact, Greg Clugston's got the update on that for us.
2 days after authorizing Epic Fury, the president said combat operations against Iran will take some time.
Right from the beginning, we projected 4 to 5 weeks. But we have capability to go far longer than that.
Speaking at a White House Medal of Honor ceremony, he said the U.S. military will do what is necessary to meet the objectives of destroying Iran's missiles and navy and preventing that country from developing nuclear weapons and sponsoring terror. Greg Clugston, Washington.
All right. So then, basically it's as essentially the administration and the military leadership are assessing the effectiveness of the first round of the attack, which by basically every assessment says this accomplished what they wanted to in that first wave.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that they are pleased with what they have accomplished, and there's even been some sort of some degree of it's moving faster than we even thought.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, of course, there's a cost with that, and not a monetary cost, but the cost of lives. We've lost 6 service members so far. We had several shot down yesterday. Thankfully, they were all able to eject safely.
Yeah, and some of that turns out was accidental friendly fire.
That was all yesterday.
Yeah.
There was 3 of them that were shot down, and it was 3 jets that were shot down, and that was friendly fire from Kuwaiti Defense Systems, unfortunately. So they're going to have to look into what happened there. But thankfully, all of those crew members are safe.
Right. Yeah. So they did the whole eject from the plane and
did you see some of that footage?
I didn't. I need to.
There's some good. Well, you have to be careful too because there's a lot of fake stuff out there.
There's a lot of AI that's really believable.
I know, but there's like one of a Kuwaiti civilian approaching this fighter, a crew member, and they're just standing there, in their flight gear and stuff. They're like, "Are you okay? You're okay. You're safe." And then you get closer and you realize it's a woman, and she's got a grin from ear to ear on her face, like, "Yeah, I'm good. I'm good." And it's just kind of like it's kind of almost a cute. I don't know how you can say it's cute, but it's almost like a cute video because it's like the guy's trying to reassure, and she's like, yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah, I saw one where it was, I believe it was a young man, but he was in the back of a truck
Yes.
of a vehicle, and they were
Mhm.
transporting him. Clearly has an injury, sustained an injury.
Yeah.
And there was like a group of people that were coming because they thought maybe it would have been like an enemy fighter. And the moment they realized it was an American, they're like, "Oh, is there anything we can do for you?" And
Yeah.
I was just like, "Okay, so it's good to know that we at least have people like in these regions that are willing to take care of our own."
Yeah, the Kuwaitis are pretty friendly to the U.S. I mean, we're
Well,
on
they
this-
should be.
Yes, exactly. So, I mean, thankfully,
We've
that's
earned that.
That's even the friendly fire incident notwithstanding. It actually happened in the right place.
I mean, because when those jets get hit, I'm suspect that they probably don't know at the moment where they got hit from.
No.
So it's not like you can go, dude, it's me.
Right.
Stop. You know.
No, exactly. So, yeah, they're definitely going to have to find out what happened there. But
Yep.
thankfully, that is a positive outcome.
All right. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was on Hannity last night on Fox, and the discussion, part of the discussion went to him saying, hey, listen, I've been lobbying past presidents to try to get in the way of Iran and these nuclear ambitions for years. Here's part of what he said.
This terror regime in Iran is the weakest point that it's been here since it hijacked Iran from the brave Iranian people 47 years ago.
Yeah. So this, I think, is between Secretary Rubio, President Trump, obviously Netanyahu, and some of the others. What they're trying to get across is we have to do it right. Now, you can agree or disagree with whether we have to do it, but they say we're here, we have to do it right. Otherwise, you've got another, I know people don't like the word, quagmire.
Right.
You know.
Right, and that's what they don't want. I do think Chris Murphy was premature to call it that when we were less than 48 hours into the situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, they don't want that because they've basically not just campaigned against that, but that's not part of the Trump agenda, if you will. Or America First agenda.
Well, and I think some of the pushback, too, is not necessarily that we took out a very evil individual. I think everybody can agree that the Ayatollah was just a bad guy that for Iran and for the rest of the world.
And the mullahs.
Yeah.
Not just him.
But at the same time, the I guess concern is that we are seeing reports, especially one from Reuters, that said that our own Pentagon intelligence said that Iran was not determined to strike us. They didn't have anything to indicate that they were going to do an imminent threat kind of position against us. And if this does not work out, as we've seen with other regime changes in the past, if the next group of people that take control of Iran go right back to trying to do the same thing, then are we going to have to go back there again? I mean, how many more times are we going to have to keep going back and wiping people out?
Oh, this could go south. I mean, it could very well not end well, but it could end well. And so far, this administration, this military have been demonstrating a pretty solid capability here. And it does seem like they went in, as Colonel Dunn was saying, this is planning for this, not this specific operation,
Right.
but this concept has been in the work for decades.
You mentioned the polling when you were talking to the colonel a little bit earlier, and I've seen a number of those stories, and the numbers I saw were generally around 25-ish% support. When there's still kind of that, again, to be cliche, shock and awe of finding out the massive level on this, media runs directly to do these, flash polling right away. And I thought Colonel Dunn gave a pretty good answer saying there's no way that we understand the intricacies of this just yet. Now, you may still disagree with it.
Sure.
How much stock should we put in polls like that? Because my gut tells me, of course, you know what I think of polling in general right now, but my gut tells me nothing yet. Now, if we're still in this mess 3 months from now, okay, well, then we got something else. But that initial reaction seems to be more fodder for media than anything else.
Yeah, and I've been trying to consider that. So the two main polls that have similar statistics were YouGov and Ipsop, and I think both of those are generally reliable with their.
YouGov uses massive sampling numbers, which is good, which is better than a lot of.
And the YouGov one specifically said that prior to the strikes, when they were still just talking about it could happen, 27% of people were on board, and then you had, and this is everybody, Republicans, Independents, and Democrats.
Across the board.
The majority of people at the time, I think it was 47% disapproved, and then the rest of them were undecided. They weren't sure. Washington Post, which I know we all probably have opinions on that, but their post-strike polls, which reference a few thousand people, say that actually disapproval has grown since the strikes. Now also approval has gone up as well, so it seems like the people that were undecided have started to take sides now.
Right. Yeah. Then that makes sense. Something actually comes to pass. So then people start forming an actual opinion upon it instead of just saying, "Oh, that's theoretical." I think polls have a value, particularly if you can look at them over time and like group them together and not just take one at face value. But overall, I mean, they are part of the media ecosphere.
Yeah.
But in terms of driving policy,
Yeah,
No.
policymakers, you don't drive your policy based on polls.
Certainly not
You
military
just-
policy.
No, you don't do that. Now, that does not mean that everybody who says I disagree or I have questions, that doesn't mean they're disloyal or they're. I mean, no, we should have plenty of room for that.
Yeah. I think you should always be questioning when you're getting involved militarily
Yes.
someplace. Always. Even if you ultimately decide you agree with it, I think you should always be questioning that.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's how we hold government accountable, regardless of who is elected, and that should be across the board something everybody agrees with.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote quality Christ-centered K-12 education nationwide.
Hi, this is Chris Stegall with the Herzog Foundation. We offer a wide variety of resources relevant to today's families, including a free online publication called The Lion. The lion is one of God's most majestic creatures, symbolizing strength and courage. Named for its attributes, the Lion publication carries articles covering a wide range of topics facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. The Lion can be found online at readlion.com. That's READ lion.com.
Sign up for The Lion at readlion.com and find dozens of must-read articles published every day. Visit readlion.com and subscribe for the weekly and daily digests so you never miss an article. Readlion.com. That's readlion.com.
Are you a proud American? Then join us for the Lincoln Trump Dinner, March 20th at Old Hickory Golf Club in St. Peters, hosted by the St. Charles County Republican Central Committee. The evening features a VIP reception, dinner and program with live music by the Comparito Trio. Register online at stcharlesgop.com. Don't miss this celebration of America's 250th year, the Lincoln Trump Dinner. See you March 20th.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at NewsTalkSTL.com.
Breaking news this hour from Town Hall. I'm Rich Thomason. Iran has expanded its targets in its showdown with the U.S. and Israel. It struck the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia today as Washington pulls many of its staffers out of the Mideast. And President Trump says Iran has been a nexus of terrorism for a long, long time.
He made the case over the course of several decades, going all the way back to 1983, talking about various terrorist proxies that have been supported by Iran to basically say that this country is a bad actor, and as a result, these attacks are justified. Trump called this a noble mission.
And that's correspondent Josh Boak. The Mideast conflict is wreaking havoc with air travel across the region. James Castle caught a flight out of the United Arab Emirates.
Over the weekends, just really stressful, really tense. Witnessing sort of missiles exploding above. We witnessed the port, a warehouse at the port go up in flames.
He spoke with Sky News. A federal court is refusing to cut the Trump administration any slack when it comes to refunding money collected through tariffs.
The Justice Department wanted to slow the process of refunding billions of dollars worth of tariffs, but a federal court refused, sending it to a lower court to sort out. The legal activity follows last month's Supreme Court ruling that struck down the tariffs as illegal, clearing the way for the importers who paid them to seek refunds. However, the High Court offered no guidance on refunds. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Gas prices are on the rise. AAA's national average as of this morning, $3.11 for a gallon of regular, and that's up 11 cents since yesterday. On Wall Street, the Dow futures down 873 points. NASDAQ futures off 552. More on these stories, townhall.com.
The following is a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
I had a lot of credit card debt, and it stressed me out. But what I thought was a solution turned out to be a problem. I kept hearing ads about debt settlement that seemed too good to be true. And actually, it was. When I called, they told me to stop paying my bills. That didn't sound right to me at all, so I hung up. Later, I found out that debt settlement is bad, real bad. Then I learned that there is a right way to pay off your credit cards. It's called a debt management program from the great team at Trinity. Trinity had a plan. In the end, I paid off my bills, I saved thousands, and I even improved my credit score.
If credit card debt has you down, call Trinity at 1-800-990-6976.
My name is Heather. Please forget debt settlement and remember Trinity Debt Management.
1-800-990-6976.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Gotch with your first alert forecast. We're going to continue to track scattered showers and storms today. Highs into the upper 50s, then into Wednesday. First alert weather day, seeing the potential for strong to severe storms from 11 a.m. towards 6 p.m. as we head towards the afternoon, early evening hours. Hail and stronger winds going to be the primary threats within that system. We'll see temperatures continue to rise throughout the second half of the week, eventually going to be looking to top back out towards 80 degrees into Friday, then more widespread chances of showers Saturday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chance Gotch.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
A celebration 100 years in the making. The National Route 66 Centennial Kickoff Celebration, presented by Vital Farms. Thursday, April 30th through Sunday, May 3rd in Springfield. The celebration kicks off with musical guests featuring Little Big Town, Chris Jansen, Gary LaVox, Gretchen Wilson, the Ozark Mountain Daredevils, and the Haygoods. Events continue through the weekend. You are invited to celebrate Route 66 with us April 30th. Tickets and information on Route66Kickoff.com. Brought to you by the Missouri Route 66 Centennial Commission.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA, SIPC.
Mike Ferguson.
Boo! Relax, nerd.
Susie Moore.
And that would be a good time to respond with some applause.
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
That's a banana republic without the banana.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
All right, the next St. Louis County executive is going to inherit a couple of things. Going to inherit some opportunity, overall, but also going to inherit a big hole in the budget that's got to be fixed, or things could go really, really badly in a lot of different ways. Yes. So if you go to the News Talk STL podcast, if you go to Mike Ferguson in the morning, you can hear our conversations with Republican Dennis Hancock. You can hear our conversation with Democrat Brian Williams, and now joining us is the other Democrat in that primary race for county executive, and that's County Assessor Jake Zimmerman. Jake, appreciate you being on the program here. So let me start with what I would argue is maybe the biggest issue that the county has to deal with right now, and that's tens of millions of dollars of a budget shortfall. Sam Page basically says, well, just go raid the Rams money for it and increase some taxes on it. Then you've got the county council, which really isn't doing so much of the Republican versus Democrat thing. They're saying, no, there's got to be a different approach. If you're a county executive, how do you try to lead the county government when it comes to closing that budget gap that's in place right now, because it's just getting bigger every year?
Well, the first thing we got to do is we got to get some adult leadership back in the room and stop with this nonsensical political squabbling, which, like you said, is happening on both sides. And it sure looks to me more like a bunch of junior high school kids fighting about personal stuff rather than seriously trying to solve problems. And I'll hone in on something you just said, which is this idea that it's okay to go raid the Rams money or some other source of one-time funds to solve a structural problem. And my personal opinion is that is craziness, right? When you have money fall down from the heavens That's one-time money, and you should use it for one-time problems. You should use it for capital projects. What you shouldn't do is burn the furniture to keep warm. If you have a structural imbalance, it's just like a family running a household budget. If you have less money coming into the bank account than the money that is going out of the bank account, then you have a problem. And if you solve that problem by selling your car to get you a little bit of extra money to pay the bills, things are not going to end well for you. Government is precisely like a business or a household. You got to live within your means, and you got to spend what you bring in and not more.
Okay, so when you look at balancing that, when you talk about bridging that gap, then what are the areas the county should look at first? And, obviously the council is saying, we're going to have, across the board cuts. We've seen what's happening with Parks and Rec, and some that may just be necessary. That may be just the fiscally responsible thing to do. But if you're the one who's proposing that budget, the council will end up deciding what it is. But what is it the areas that you hope the county will look at first, whether you're closing it from cutting spending? Are there any tax increases you think should be put on the table? My opinion of that notwithstanding, what would you do if you're elected?
The first thing I'd do is be honest with the people of St. Louis County and not play any more of these stupid games. I'll take your question about taxes head on and say that taxes should always be the last resort when you are looking at a budget situation for any government entity. The simple reality of government in times like these is sometimes you got to learn how to do more with less. The good news, if you can call it that, is that there's already a lot of stupid government tricks in St. Louis County government, and I see lots of potential areas to save money while providing better services to the people of this town. An obvious example of that is look at the bad management of the county animal shelter, which has been all over the news for all the wrong reasons for years now. And more than once, the county administration's response to problems at the animal shelter has been to fire all of the volunteers. Right, so let's just take a moment and parse that in our heads for a second, shall we? You got people giving you help for free, and then you're mad about bad media coverage, and your response to that is to get rid of all the people who are giving you free help? Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, Mike. Another thing that doesn't make a lot of sense to me is talk to anybody who chooses to pay their county taxes the old-fashioned way. Talk to anyone who has sent in a check in the mail and ask them how quickly that check got deposited. Anybody who answers that question for you is going to tell you that it took months between the time they put that piece of paper in the mail and when they showed it clearing their bank account. Now, again, if you have a government struggling to make ends meet, does that seem to you like a sign of the efficient processing of resources, or does that seem to you of a sign of a place where the management has been so challenged that some nuts and bolts stuff needs to be fixed?
We are visiting with St. Louis County Assessor Jake Zimmerman, who is now running for county executive, which you probably already knew that. Okay, so Jake, then how do we streamline that? Where does that come from? And then I want to get into some of the dynamics that if you're elected, you're going to be inheriting in Clayton there. But how do we streamline that to make those processes more efficient, less expensive, better responsive to the citizens?
Well, I'll tell you, Mike, the answer to that question is going to be a little wonky and a little nerdy. So you're going to have to bear with me because this stuff doesn't fit real good into a 30-second TV ad. But look, for better or for worse, if you elect Jake Zimmerman as your next county executive, what you get is you get a nerd. And maybe that's what we need right now. So the nerdy answer to that is that St. Louis County has too many different computer IT systems that don't talk to each other. We got a bunch of stuff built with string and wires and duct tape over the years, and then there have been foolish adventures in recent years, like blowing millions of dollars of the taxpayers' money, of your money, on new computer systems that can't talk to the old ones and that aren't even as good as the ones they already had. So step one is to get all the bureaucrats talking to each other and get people out of the silos that they are currently sitting in and end this sort of dumb government nonsense of people protecting their fiefdoms and have a strategic plan across the board to spend less on technology while having only technology that is actually capable of getting the job done. And then and only then are you going to be able to do what you need to do to streamline the rest of the services.
Okay, so one of the interesting dynamics here is, well, first and foremost, regardless of who wins the next election to be county executive, at least it's not Sam Page. So to me, that's a step in the right direction, no matter who wins, whether it's you or Brian or Dennis on this. But one of the interesting dynamics is the conflict not necessarily being between Republicans and Democrats on the county council, but mostly the council as a whole and the executive's office. If you come in, how do you use that to work with the county? And are you worried about any of the sort of conflict stink still being left over when the next executive takes office?
I mean, look, St. Louis County politics has been a clown show for years now, and it's an embarrassment to the region, and it's an embarrassment to any citizen who prides themselves on looking for good government. And you're exactly right. This is not a political, ideological thing. Somehow it became personal. And I don't care if it's between Sam Page and a council member or between two different council members. Enough already is the only correct answer to that. What we need is some adult leadership in the room, a little bit of humility, a little bit of willingness to acknowledge that no person in this story has all the right answers, but people in good faith need to work with each other. People in good faith need to understand that the taxpayers are sending us here to do a job. And for the most part, there's not a Democratic or a Republican way to do this job. I mean, consider the work I do right now. It's not exactly the sexiest job in county government, right? Telling people what their house is worth, valuation of real and personal property. There's a right way to do it, and there's a wrong way to do it, but there's not a Democratic way, and there's not a Republican way. And there's also not a Democratic or a Republican way to fix the animal shelter. And there's not a Democratic or a Republican way to get the tax bills processed on time. And there's not a Democratic or a Republican way to maintain a park, right? And so, to me, enough of the political nonsense. Let's just all work together like real human beings.
Since you mentioned the animal shelter a couple of times, I'm actually glad, Jake, that you brought that up. Is there a case to be made for, in some cases, contract and privatize it? I mean, APA did seem to do a really good job when things got really bad. APA came in and fixed it, and then it went right back to control of the folks who took it over, and then they end up losing their certification at one point with the state.
Yeah, and that whipsaw back and forth, again, smells to me like it was more about politics and more about the same old if somebody got hacked off at somebody else and decided to take out a personal vendetta. Let me be clear, I'm open to any solution, creative or out of the box or otherwise, to get all of this stuff back on track. What we can't have is any more bureaucratic turf wars and any more of the same politics as usual.
All right, Jake Zimmerman, county assessor running for county executive. Let's go ahead and give the website, social media. People want to connect and learn more about your campaign. They got questions for you because we had some people sending in questions about assessments and things like that. What's the way to do that and at least check out your campaign?
Yeah, find me at jakezimmerman.org.
All right, Jake, appreciate you being on the program. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, in the city and in the burbs, much of what we demand of government has to do with public safety, obviously. So at 8:20, let's get an update on the public safety aspect of St. Louis County. Not even so much about the police, because we talk a lot about police when public safety, but Prosecutor Melissa Price-Smith is going to be giving us an update because the reality is she inherited a little bit of a, I'm not going to say a complete dumpster fire, but there was some tidying up to do once she took office. So we're going to get that update from her in just about 3.5 minutes right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Before you blow us all away. Get up, can't you hear the alarm? Get up, this is your cousin.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
I've driven all over Washington, D.C. I cannot find the money tree.
On News Talk STL.
You can feel the Clydesdales circling the field. Hear the stands come alive. Smell the hot dogs, the popcorn, and cold beer in the air. See the crowd rise as the first pitch hits the glove. And just like that, A new season begins. The countdown is on until opening day, and tickets start at just $49. Don't miss St. Louis's favorite holiday. Get your tickets at cardinals.com/opening day.
Cardinals single-game tickets are now on sale for the 2026 season. The schedule delivers big-time matchups, including weekend series against the Cubs and Dodgers, and visits from the Boston Red Sox. Add in a promotions calendar stacked with fan favorites like all-new giveaways, a Hawaiian short and shirt set, golf-inspired hat, dark mode jersey, and a whole lot more. It's Busch Stadium at its best all season long. Lock in your seats today at Cardinals.com.
This year, America turns 250, and NewsTalkSTL is celebrating our nation's semi-quincentennial all year long. NewsTalkSTL, #1 for live and local Soros-free talk, with proud supporters of our 250th birthday celebration. Freddy's Market, Iron Bear Customs, and STL Windows and Doors. 250 years strong, and we're just getting started. 101.9 and 94.1 NewsTalkSTL.
Rhino Shield is engineered to outlast paint, formulated to outsmart the elements. Rain or shine, sleet or snow, mold or mildew. Our home exterior coatings intelligently designed to stand up to Mother Nature. Call 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com.
This is so stupid.
St. Louis's.
Okay, I'm hanging up on you now.
Place to talk. News Talk STL.
Hey, Chris Arps from the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Make sure that you're listening to our show this afternoon from 4 to 6. Now back to the Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show.
All right, public safety is actually not just about police.
Yeah.
Okay. I think a lot of times we think public safety, we're talking about, okay, what are we doing with funding with law enforcement and equipping law enforcement? And that's a huge part of it. There's no doubt about that. But it's also about how crime is dealt with after the cops find the bad guys. Alleged bad guys, because they haven't been convicted, so I have to say alleged.
Yeah, when the courts and the judges won't hold them accountable, you're just making it worse for the police officers.
Yeah, so we had a change a couple years ago in the St. Louis County Prosecutor's Office with Wesley getting elected to Congress, and Melissa Price-Smith is the county prosecutor, as I'm sure that you know, and she joins us right now. Melissa, appreciate you giving us an update here. I'm looking over some of the notes as far as what's been added and tweaked and updated in the office. And the first thing I'm looking at is reinstating the violent crime unit. And my first question is, you mean there was a time we didn't have a violent crime unit in a suburb of St. Louis?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I was sworn in January 3rd, 2025 in the morning. That afternoon, first thing we did was reinstate the violent crime unit. The significance of that, when police officers come in to apply on a charge, they have to meet with the prosecutor. They have to apply on the charge, show what evidence they have. A prosecutor has to be available to do that. You don't want a case like a violent crime case to sit 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months before a prosecutor can get to it. And when we did not have a dedicated violent crime unit, sometimes those cases weren't looked at right away. Now with our dedicated unit, violent crimes are reviewed in real time. If a police officer applies on a case that's a violent crime, a prosecutor will review it immediately, look to see if that individual has pending cases, prior cases, make a charging decision immediately, and talk with the judge to set a bond immediately. If there's too much time that goes by and the individual is released, they can only be held 24 hours without a charging decision. We have seen the pattern. Those offenders will oftentimes pick up more and more charges during that 3 weeks or 3 months before it was gotten to. So now, since one of our main goals is to get violent offenders off the streets as quickly as possible, those cases are reviewed without delay.
Now, what's that look like? Does that mean this isn't a 9-to-5 job for some of the prosecutors on your team?
Oh, we have somebody on call 24/7. We have somebody on call, what's called the duty phone, to answer any questions for police or do search warrants, for example, in DWIs. We also have somebody on call on what's called our homicide phone 24/7. And speaking of our violent crime unit, since we created that unit in the last year, we have issued over 400 cases of violent crimes because of that dedicated unit.
Now, were things just getting dropped before that, or were they just taking too long? What's been the impact? I mean, and I know there's been a tremendous amount, over 1,000 indictments as well here, but those cases, 400 cases over the course of 15 months now, or something like that. How is that different than what was happening before?
Well, the thing is, it's more efficient now. We need those cases to be reviewed immediately because, like I said, when they are not reviewed immediately, those offenders, our violent offenders, will continue to pick up cases while they were waiting for their cases to be reviewed. So the impact of this is it gets them off the streets much more quickly. And to address one thing you said, yeah, over 400 cases with over 1,000 indictments, meaning many of those offenders had multiple charges.
Okay. We're visiting with Melissa Price Smith, the St. Louis County prosecuting attorney. You just mentioned the homicide phone, but there's also a group in your office working with homicides. I know we like to think that homicide is a city problem, or somebody might even say a North County problem, but this is obviously something that this should be primary duty number one, to prosecute people who are accused of killing others. And so, what changes have you made on that, and what results are we seeing?
Well, that was the second major change that I made in the office. Within the first couple months, I created a homicide unit. I like to be transparent, but I always hate to share this because people shudder. Right now in St. Louis County, our office is handling 270 pending homicide cases. So what we did in creating our homicide unit, we did some very heavy recruitment of veteran prosecutors. We recruited 3 veteran prosecutors from the U.S. Attorney's Office who had worked at our office years ago. We recruited them to come back to our office, 1, to be our chief trial attorney, and 2, to lead our homicide unit. So not only do they bring incredible knowledge to the office and they're incredible attorneys, they also are able to train our younger attorneys and advise them at every step of the way in all cases, in particular in this unit, in homicide cases, which, as we all know, are our most serious cases.
Yeah, and in obviously a related sort of fashion, you've changed also how you deal with crimes involving firearms too.
100%. We all know that everybody can carry a gun. However, one thing we have done in the office, we now have a stronger gun policy. We no longer offer straight probation on any crime that's committed with a firearm. And what I mean is any serious crime, robbery, if somebody shoots into a dwelling, if somebody shoots into a car, if they possess narcotics with a gun, if they point a gun at somebody and even don't pull the trigger, these are all felony gun crimes. Even if it's a first offense, we no longer offer straight probation. And the philosophy behind that, these are our trigger pullers. I didn't feel that we could sit around and wonder why we had so many homicides in St. Louis County, while on the other hand, we were giving out probation on any gun case. Now, I'm not saying nobody gets probation, but nobody gets just straight probation. There has to be either shock time, there has to be prison time, there has to be something. Is a first-time offender who pointed a gun but didn't do anything with it going to go to prison for 25 years? No. But you know what? He is going to sit down for a minute. He's going to do some shock time. He's going to do some jail time. We have got to send a message. There are too many young people walking around carelessly carrying guns who, like I said, if they're not pulling the trigger now, they are our future trigger pullers. So we now have a stronger policy on all gun cases.
And this is after a crime is committed, because obviously, there's going to be a Second Amendment consideration on any policy that you form. So what's the right way to do that to stay, obviously in compliance with, with constitutional rights on that?
Well, of course, people have a right to carry a gun. I mean, in Missouri, yes, somebody can carry a gun. They don't have a right to commit a crime with a gun. They don't have a right to carry illegal narcotics with a gun. If they're another offense we have is felon in possession. If they are a convicted felon, they can't carry a gun. They commit a robbery with a gun, shoot into a dwelling, shoot into a car. So, yeah, this doesn't infringe on people's legal and constitutional right to carry a gun at all. But if somebody's going to commit a crime with a gun, we're going to take it seriously.
All right, we're visiting with Melissa.
This is not going to affect responsible gun owners.
Okay, we're visiting with Melissa Price Smith, St. Louis County prosecutor. We've spoken now with all 3 of the main candidates for county executive. We spoke with so many members of the county council as well. Budget cuts are just a reality in St. Louis County right now. There's been overspending for years and years and years. When you're talking to the council, you're talking to other elements of the government. What, if any, impact could the budget cuts have on your office?
Well, yeah, I mean, as we all know, there's an $80 million deficit in St. Louis County, and the county council, I mean, I respect the work. They're working very hard to correct this. Our budget in the last 2.5 years has been cut about 5%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it really is. 98% of my budget goes to salaries. We don't have a lot of other stuff. So because of this cut, we have actually been forced to eliminate some positions. In terms of like public safety, could it affect it? I mean, potentially it could. We could always use more attorneys. St. Louis County has 1 million people. We have 75 prosecutors in the office, but we don't have as many as similarly situated counties like Jackson County in Kansas City. They also have 75 prosecutors. They only have 720,000 in their population. So sure, we would love more prosecutors. I hate the fact that we have to eliminate some positions. We are going to, obviously, our budget's been partially cut. We are taking steps to cooperate 100% with getting that budget in line. We've made some changes, like we now do primarily in-house training instead of sending people, to different states to do specific training. We now bring that in-house. We're cooperating to be a part of the solution, and we are focusing on our mission so that it does not have any effect on public safety. Will it cause people to work harder? Yeah, but everybody in my office is ready to do that.
So what's next? I mean, you look at, say, the next year, 2026, what are some of the other changes or what's evolving in the county prosecutor's office that's going to affect us here at just kind of the everyday street level in the county?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm so proud of the work we've done this past year, and the people in my office are really incredible and work so hard every day to keep St. Louis County safe. The last year, we've made some big sweeping changes. In addition to what we've talked about, we've created a hospital violence unit to protect our healthcare workers. We've added to our sexual assault child abuse team, where it now includes elder abuse under that umbrella because those cases weren't getting enough attention. We've met with judges, created a second grand jury to move cases more quickly through the system. Like I said, this last year has been about sweeping changes. Moving forward, now we want to fine-tune everything. We want to continue to move forward, make our office stronger, make St. Louis County safer. We've also increased our community outreach 100%. I'm telling you, we are out in the community almost every night. Not only talking, but listening. We want to hear what our communities need. We want to hear what people want from a prosecutor's office. We've also increased our diversion and treatment court. We've doubled the amount of attorneys who do that kind of work. So we want this next year to focus on fine-tuning all these programs and becoming an even stronger office. The other focus on our office, in addition to keeping violent offenders off the streets, we are a victim-centered office. And one of the main goals in our office is to give victims a voice, to make sure that every victim out there knows that the disclosure leads to healing and their voice is safe with us. So it's been a great year. I just want to continue doing this work.
All right, County Prosecutor Melissa Price-Smith, appreciate the update. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
All right. Our friends over at Reach Reproductive Health, this week on Thursday, they have a really special luncheon that's happening. And this is specifically to do a couple things. One, connect those in the pro-life movement around the state, but really around here in the St. Louis area, and connect that effort with churches and ministries right here in St. Louis. There are still a few seats left from what I understand, but those are going to go pretty fast. This is a free event, but you need to RSVP because they need to know how many lunches are ready to have ready to give out on that. Attorney General Catherine Hanaway is going to be there. I'm going to be there. So check it out this Thursday. Go to outreachforlife.org to RSVP to join us at the Ministry Pro-Life Luncheon event that's happening on Thursday. I did this last year, and you're going to be in and out. You can take your lunch break and come on out, but tell your pastor, tell your priest, tell your elders, tell your deacons about it, outreachforlife.org, and send that link to them so that your ministry is represented on Thursday.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
A cross between Socrates and Dirty Harry.
On NewsTalk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
Meteorologist Chance Gotch with your first alert forecast. We're going to continue to track scattered showers and storms today. Highs into the upper 50s, then into Wednesday. First alert weather day, seeing the potential for strong to severe storms from 11 a.m. towards 6 p.m. as we head towards the afternoon, early evening hours. Hail and stronger winds going to be the primary threats within that system. We'll see temperatures continue to rise throughout the second half of the week, eventually going to be looking to top back out towards 80 degrees into Friday, then more widespread chances of showers Saturday. From the First Alert 4 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jan Scott.
Fox News commentary with Brian Kilmeade next.
When I started skiing, I didn't think about setting any records. When I won my first race, I didn't think about how many more I might win. So when I made it to the top of the world, it never crossed my mind to stop. Being the best isn't the same as being your best. There are no shortcuts to the top, so find the people who help get you there. I'm Michaela Schifrin, and that's what Team Stiefel means to me. If you're an advisor or an investor, choose Stiefel, where success meets success.
Stiefel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Past performance is no indication of future results. Investing involves risk. Consult a financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
Here's Brian Kilmeade.
Iran has been a problem for the better part of 50 years. Let's flash back to 1979. Iranian students seized the U.S. embassy over in Tehran. 52 Americans kept for 444 days. Then, under the new leader, Ayatollah Khomeini, made it clear we were the #1 enemy. And in 1983, they proved it. Iranian-linked militants via Hezbollah bombed U.S. Marines. They killed 241 service members. In the 90s, we had proxy wars and tensions over sanctions and nuclear disputes. Cue the 1996 Khobar Towers bombing. That killed 19 Americans over in Saudi Arabia. Fast forward to 2002, President George W. Bush identifying the nation, Iran, as part of the axis of evil. We've tried talking to Iran in the past. Donald Trump knows that, and he knew it all along. Along with the Israelis, though, they took action. The only thing that country of Iran seems to understand is direct military contact.
For more commentary like this, go to foxnewspodcast.com.
Looking for a hardware store that treats you like family? Welcome to True Value Schneider's Hardware, your local gem in Old Town St. Peters. For over 100 years, we're proudly serve you St. Charles County, providing everything from lawn and garden supplies to plumbing and electrical. Need a bolt or fastener? We've got you covered. And don't forget, we're a steel dealership. Whether you need sales, parts, or service, ask for Charlie or Jerry when you come in. We're here to help. Call 636-278-4461 or visit us online at truevalue.com/Schneiders.
If you've turned 65 recently like me, it's important you find a Medicare Advantage plan that gives you the coverage you're looking for. But finding one can be difficult. The best thing I did, and I suggest you do the same, is call a licensed insurance agent and let them walk you through your Medicare Advantage plan options. There are so many benefits you have access to, so make the call now and let the representatives explain everything to you. Our licensed insurance agents can offer you a variety of Medicare Advantage plans. Plus, the call is free, the information is free, and there's no obligation to enroll. We're here to make it easy for you to select a Medicare Advantage plan that may work for your needs. Finding a Medicare Advantage plan can be easy if you do what I did. Make a quick call right now to learn more. Thank you.
800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. 800-439-7851. That's 800-439-7851.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Yes, I listen on my phone.
Download the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
Love the all-new NewsTalk STL app.
It is awesome.
And listen anytime.
Love the NewsTalk STL app.
Anywhere.
Hey folks, Jamie Allman here, waiting for you for the 3 Martini Lunch, the Common Sense Radio, the Allman Report on NewsTalk STL. Now back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right, let's get a quick look at what's happening around the region, the state, the world, country. Okay, so America, we're there. We're in Iran. For how long? What's the cost going to be? And I'm not saying that the cost isn't worth it. That remains to be seen, but that's the big question right now. Parents get a rare win in California. It's really sad that I have to say something like parents get a rare win.
Yeah.
Much less in California. And Billikens hold on to a spot in the national rankings, and this surprised me. I was wrong about this. It is 8:36. Let's go ahead and do one more news dump.
The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks.
The Morning News Dump.
And here we go. The Trump administration is insisting the war with Iran will not be an endless Middle East conflict.
Addressing concerns that combat operations could spiral into a long-running regional conflict, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said this military mission has a defined objective.
This is not Iraq. This is not endless.
He said the mission is to destroy the missile threat from Iran, destroy its navy, and prevent it from developing nuclear weapons.
We fight to win, and we don't waste time or lives.
Hegseth wouldn't rule out putting U.S. troops on the ground, saying the Pentagon will not forecast what it will or will not do. Greg Clugston, Washington.
And at the latest report that I've seen, we've had 6 American casualties, which on the grand scale of that operation, that isn't very many, but that's 6 American service men and or women who have lost their lives in the combat so far.
Yeah, and some of the rhetoric that's come out, some of the explanations that have been coming out, it's kind of hard to paint a fully accurate picture of what the timeline of these events could be. President Trump did say that he right now is anticipating it's going to be 4 to 5 weeks, but he's willing to prolong it as long as it takes. I know right now it's been updated that the U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia is issuing a take warning shelter for imminent missile strikes. So clearly the region around that area is going to be pulled into this as well.
It's a powder keg, yeah.
And I just hope that the U.S. feels the least of the brunt of this attack.
All right, so obviously there's a lot of political debate over it. Generally speaking, Democrats and a few Republicans objecting to the attack. Republicans basically, for the most part, getting in line with President Trump. One of the exceptions is Senator John Fetterman. He was on Hannity last night, and he was calling out his fellow Democrats, not even necessarily for disagreeing with the president, but for what it seems to me as he's calling them out for basically doing it for tribal reasons, not necessarily for principled reasons.
If you really believe that they should never acquire these kinds of nuclear weapons or these kinds of longer range kinds of missiles, and if somebody decides to do that and make sure that that's not going to happen, why can't we all just acknowledge that that's a good thing?
See, and this is one of those areas where right now the Democrats, most of the Democrats just look frankly, silly. But then again, we've seen the antics to where, it's like a joke I saw, if Donald Trump, cured cancer, then, he would be protested by the left because he put doctors and researchers and nurses and cancer hospitals out of work. If he invented a kind of cancer that killed a bunch of people, there'd be a lot of those on the right who said, well, you know what, they sorry about your uncle, but MAGA. Yeah.
It's 5D chess.
Yeah, it's 5D. So this is the sort of insanity tribalism that we're in right now. But there should be plenty of room to go, I'm going to reserve judgment just because any political leader tells me something's good, I'm going to follow along. But I have questions. And that should be the standard. I've got questions. I'm not going to accept and be told what to think. Now, the fact of the matter is that people on the right, people on the left are on the right and the left because we see things differently. And you're going to come to different conclusions based on your worldview, but it should be based on that, on how you see things and process and digest things, not based on what your party or your movement leadership tells you to think.
And there's a level of transparency, I think, that could be done better when talking to the public about certain things, because we keep hearing different shifts and what the actual reason is for, even going back to Venezuela. It started off with narco-terrorism drug boats, and then it became, well, they were transporting oil to China and supplying weapons, and that needed to stop. You can explain to the people the actual intentions and causes for something without it being used by our enemies to predict our movements, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, and to leave some room for, like, for instance, you can't take everything off the table right away. I mean, maybe we're done in 3 or 4 weeks. If that case, then I think you declare this a success, assuming Iran is set back another 5, 10, 15, 20 years, knowing that probably 5, 10, 15, 20 years, there's going to be something else that happens as well. But if it drags on and on and on and on, I mean, then we got a whole other set of problems here.
Absolutely.
Speaker Mike Johnson talking to reporters, being asked about, did the president need congressional authorization? The speaker says, no, he did not. The Speaker Mike Johnson saying the president was within his authority.
It's not a declaration of war. It's not something that the president was required, because it's defensive in nature and in design and in necessity, to come to Congress and get a vote first. And if they had briefed a larger group than the Gang of Eight, there's a real threat that very sensitive intelligence that we had, might have been leaked.
Okay, so if this is not a declaration of war, probably everybody involved then should probably stop calling it a war.
Including the president who keeps referring to it as war.
We're at war. I mean, we just are. Is it legally war? Well, no, war has not been declared, but this is war.
Yeah, and looking into it, because that's another big thing that it just really irritates me, even when people on our side are inaccurate with some of their language. So there is something called military operations other than war that has a set guidelines of things of this nature that they can operate, but it has to fall within certain actual criteria for that to be invoked. And then there's also, of course, the Wartime Act of 1973, which provides 60 days for military operations. Then you have to actually start a mandatory withdrawal if you don't get congressional approval. I'm just actually personally very glad we never went to war with Iraq or Afghanistan. Imagine how disastrous that would have been if we actually went to war with them.
Yeah, see about that. Yeah, but to me, it's a matter of was the president legal? I think he was. I think he was within the bounds of the law and the Constitution on this. I really hope that he can follow through and this goes the way that he's anticipating that it's going to go, and that we are withdrawing, we are getting out quickly, and we have minimal loss of life. So at this point, I think he gets the benefit of a doubt, but I think it's fair to ask questions as well.
Yeah, but I would also like for him to gloat a little bit less about it at this time, because we have no idea how this is going to turn out.
You know, we're talking about Donald Trump here, right?
Okay, fair.
Yeah. Okay. The Supreme Court hands parents a victory in California, at least for right now. Okay, so by a 6-3 ruling, and you can guess which 3 and which 6, the court reinstated a lower court's decision. Okay, so that's the wonky part of this here. So here's what's going on: is there's a state law in California that says K-12 public schools are not allowed to notify parents if their child shows gender dysphoria or sexuality-based mental illnesses or confusion or any sort of struggles. So a lower court said, no, we're going to put an injunction and put a pause on that. No. That law is probably going to get overturned. No. Well, then another court ruled on top of that saying, nope, that injunction is lifted. The law goes back into effect. And now the Supreme Court goes, no. That first court can stop that law from being implemented. Mm-hmm. And one of the interesting threads through all of this is that multiple courts have said, there's a likelihood that those who are suing are going to win. And it's based on religious freedom, because the schools are getting in between the parents and the child and essentially assuming ownership. The state, the government, is assuming ownership. So this is not the final say in the case, and it will still be appealed one way or the other, eventually to the Supreme Court for a final decision. That may or may not be something in 2027, depending on how long all of the appeals take. But eventually the Supreme Court will rule on that, and that will have a nationwide effect.
It's still very interesting, though, that the pro-parent side of things actually got ruled on in this way. I think that hopefully that's a good sign of more rational people maybe being in charge of these laws and these policies. But ultimately, anything that deprives a parent's right to have knowledge and interaction with their children of what's going on in their child's life should just not be enforceable by law anyways.
The pro-parent side of things shouldn't have opponents in the government.
Yes. Amen.
I mean, that's not a policy position. That is a good versus evil position on that. All right, a couple sports things. Billikens managed to hold on and stay in the national rankings. I was wrong. I thought they were going to drop out of the top 25 altogether. They held on barely. I'm a little surprised by this. Good for them, though.
Great job.
The new AP poll has SLU at number 25. The coaches poll ranks them at 24. Billikens host Loyola Chicago tomorrow at Chaffetz. Illini, they are at 11 in both of the polls this week. They're at home against Oregon tonight. The Mizzou Tigers did get some votes, to get a significant number of votes, but not enough to break into the top 25 national rankings. Cardinals got a 3-2 win over the Marlins in spring training with a whole bunch of players you've never heard of and I've never heard of, because they're getting all the kids a look, see what they could do. The Cardinals do not have a game today, but now we're getting into preparing for the World Baseball Classic. Team USA prepares for the WBC. They've got an exhibition game against the Giants this afternoon. That is a 2:08 first pitch, not 2:07, not 2:09, 2:08, Jerome. All right. And that one's going to be on ESPN. So basically what we're going to see is a lot of the major league teams having exhibition games with the national teams from a bunch of the countries in the Western Hemisphere, including a lot of the major league players. So a little bit of a break from the norm in spring training for the World Baseball Classic. I'm here for it. Baseball people, I'm telling you, get into the World Baseball Classic. It's a lot of fun.
Mike Ferguson in the morning
I just want to say to the men of this country, just shut up and step up.
on News Talk STL.
Your business moves fast. PRI Global keeps it moving smarter for almost 30 years, delivering top tech talent to help companies grow stronger, custom applications, simplifying your operations, securing your data, modernizing your business from the cloud up. And with Prismatic, you're going to get real-time insights, automated workflows, people, process, platform. PRI Global delivers all three. PRIGlobal.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
Patrick Toohey, he is Senior Fellow with the Show Me Institute.
You can say it's schools, you can say it's crime or the perception of crime. Those are legit, but, St. Louis needs fewer reasons for people to leave, whatever they are. And even if the 1% tax isn't the top reason they leave, it's not keeping people in. And St. Louis needs to be competitive with the municipalities around them.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL.
License number GL250000615.
Hey, it's good to see you.
Two sounds that can wreck your sleep. A drip and a toilet that won't stop running.
Drip, drip, all night.
Good news. We're doing plumbing now. Same folks, same care, same we do it right.
Leaky faucet, running toilet.
Or a stubborn clog. Call Grasser.
Electric and plumbing, the Grasser way.
Green is always Grasser at GrasserHomeservices.com.
Colombo and Company.
On Tuesday, we'll get you the latest info on what's happening with Iran, and we'll be joined by Crane Durham from NothingButTruth.com and Susie Moore from The Morning Show and Red State.
Live and local, weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL.
Jerome, did you look at the gas prices on the way into work today? I didn't even. I mean, I drive past like 3 gas stations on the way in, but I didn't actually happen to notice what they are. We do know the gas prices are starting to go up already because of the war in Iran, and that's going to be a fact of life for a little bit. And just understand that's part of what's happening because of the supply being cut off from the Middle East by Iran. Now, at some point, they may lose so bad that they don't have any control over that anymore. But at the moment, for a little bit, and we talked to Larry Behrens about this yesterday, that there's a pretty good chance that we're going to see gas prices go up. Now, I don't think we're going to get in that $4 or $5 gallon thing, but notice that it is going to go up a little bit, I think. But I didn't notice when I was driving by today.
Yeah, so the prices of barrels have been consistently going up because of how many tankers, how many refineries in that region are being specifically targeted in retaliation. Now, from what I have actually not been to the one that's near the station. I needed to fill up today, so I got
to fill up today too. Yeah.
But from what I'm seeing right now is that the national average is being reported as up 11 cents, and that the current analysis are saying that that's going to continue to rise throughout the rest of the week. And then in Europe specifically, they're seeing price gouges as high as 40% right now. So.
Yeah, and obviously in some states like California, it's going to go up significantly. By the way, as Jerome mentioned a little bit a few minutes ago, U.S. has now closed embassies in both Saudi Arabia and Kuwait. And, of course, other embassies around the region have been subject to attack as well. But, this is just kind of starting. I mean, I don't think anybody had any illusions as to what we were getting into when this war started. I don't think that anybody is going to be surprised by the reaction. That's just war. I mean, that's the way that it goes here. But you're going to look at U.S. citizens being told to leave 14 countries in all, including Egypt, including Israel, basically saying, get out. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay there. Kind of thing, because I would say we have to assume that the war is going to spread, especially now after the initial kind of, back in the early Gulf War days, it was called shock and awe. And so at this point now, once the shock is worn off and they're no longer in awe, the enemy now is reorganizing and they're going to hit back where they have targets. So, the stories are going to be coming daily here, and it's going to get ugly. And so then it just comes down to, are we going to be able to complete the mission on the general timeline that the U.S. wants to complete the timeline?
Yeah, and it's very concerning as well because we're seeing a lot of proxy groups and different
Mhm.
militias that are now getting involved as well. So this is just from this morning. Qatar officially makes a statement saying that they're not going to allow the Iranian attacks to go unanswered. So it
Sure.
sounds like they're very peeved.
Yep.
The UN peacekeepers said that they spotted Israeli troops, like ground troops that were going into Lebanon right now. As Lebanese are evacuating from these areas. I know we have some conflicts with militia people there as well.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Europe is
Which, by the way, is a proxy. The militias in like Lebanon, those are proxies for a lot of these other groups.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a massive network there.
Europe, about 30 minutes ago, they have declared that they are doing what they can to evacuate as many Europeans from the Middle East and other areas as well right now. So the issue, though, is, again, airspace is not very safe. There's still drones and missiles being fired in all directions. Both from Iran, from Israel, from I think Saudi Arabia is getting prepared to do something of that nature as well. Russia is talking about getting involved, trying to actually be a broker for, I guess, peace, ironically.
Yeah.
Ukraine is Ukraine is offering to assist in anti-drone defenses for the UAE. So it really does not seem like, even if our engagement somehow miraculously comes to an end in 4 to 5 weeks and we did what we promised we were going to do, and that was that. It definitely sounds like this is going to continue to escalate.
Right.
I don't see a way where Iran is able to make up and apologize for all the
there's
they've
no.
done.
And here's the thing: is we a lot of times will look at the players on the chessboard and we'll say, well, this is about the economy, this is about oil, this is about countries trying to do the best thing for their people, even if it's a different. Well, that's not what's happening in the Middle East. When you get the Islamic regimes on here, they don't care about their people. They don't. What they care is about world domination through the militant Islam. And we don't see the world the way that they see the world. Thank God. Because to them, human lives are the expendable resources in order for the global jihad.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we don't do ourselves any favors when we assume that they fear deaths and they fear their people being angry at them, that they fear being unpopular, that they fear loss of life. They do not. They themselves don't care about living to see, some victory in a 100-year plan. There's a pundit named Brigitte Gabriel, and she wrote a couple of books years ago. One of them is just called Because They Hate. Now, she was the nightly news anchor in one of the Middle Eastern Arabic-speaking news networks for years. And she was actually from one of the few Orthodox Christian areas of the Middle East. And she lives in the United States now, and she does a lot of speaking around college campuses, and she's very conservative. But I remember being struck by her book probably 20 years ago, called Because They Hate. And it goes to the underlying thing that so many Americans, and particularly the academics, want to forget because they want to look at, well, what are the economic factors? What are they, and you just forget that there is a massive difference in value structures and value formation. And frankly, the militant Islam is just incompatible with Western civilization.
Absolutely. And right now, we're seeing that in full display, I think, because we do see quite a few chants and cheers of "Thank you, America, for helping us." But I can't obviously pronounce the pronunciation of this because I don't speak Iranian. But there have been confirmed sources from people that are in Iran that are posting their own social media clips in different Telegram sources with massive, like streets full of people still chanting "Death to America, we will not surrender, we will not give up." So it does not sound as if everybody's going to be on board, and that's how we see. We've seen civil wars break out over this stuff in the past. Also, this morning, China is basically demanding safe passage in the Strait of Hormuz for their shipments, saying that. Obviously they're quote unquote urging all parties to immediately cease fire, but they're also adamant that they're going to get their oil shipments through there safely. And I would not put it past China, who has a history of, at the very least, being very good at cyber warfare.
Another quest for world domination.
Yes, and I would not put it past them if something happens to any of their stuff that they're going to release the dragon, so to speak. So
yeah, and you look at the cyber aspect of this. We tend to think that the Middle Eastern military and the Middle Eastern forces are a bunch of uneducated guys in caves living with goats. And I'm sure that there are some cannon fodder for that or some of that, but don't underestimate that they know how to do cyber as well. They know how to do something. Now, are they as good at it as we are, as China is? No, of course not. China is very, very good at it. And I've thought for a long time that if there's any sort of other mass attack on the U.S. from a foreign entity, that it would probably come in the form of something cyber, and targeting something like critical infrastructure, targeting something, that would cripple a country, economically, utilities, water, electricity, air, flights, traffic control, things like that. I think those are the tactics when we worry more about conventional tactics of things that go boom. And there may be some of that as well, but understand that this is a whole new world from where we were just a generation ago.
And then 23 minutes ago, it was reported that the Dow dropped 880 points in a massive stock sell-off. That's actually the equivalent of 1.8% of the market cap has dropped. In the S&P 500, it's 1.6, and the NASDAQ is also 1.8% down.
Which means this might be a good buying opportunity.
Yeah, so
it might be a really good buying. That's coming back up. That's just people getting scared.
So millennials out there, this might be our chance to own something. But
that's that happens when major world events shock things. Is that sort of thing happens? I'm not that worried about that.
But it is interesting as well because a lot of the casualties outside of Iran that I'm seeing being reported are quite a few of them are migrant workers that are working on these oil refineries in these areas, and so I can't imagine it as well. Some of these countries that have their migrants over there doing these contract jobs are not going to be upset about this as well. So we might see quite a few big players on the world stage getting involved here by the end of the week.
We'll have updates for you throughout the week, and how things look tomorrow is probably going to be very different than how they're looking at this moment.